Chapter 117. In the room, Xiao Pingon slowly opened his eyes and looked at the time on his watch. From a moment, he closed his eyes until now. It had only taken him more than 8 hours to complete the Realm Pearl. At this moment, it was still 7 o'clock in the evening of November 10th. After merging with Li Guoxian's Realm Bead, Xiao Pingon had a silver relief in his secret mandala. The relief was the story of Li Guoxian's learning of painting. There were 3 colorful summoning positions on the relief: 1 bull, 1 tiger, and 1 owl. The perfect merging this time had increased Xiao Pingon's divine power by 40 points, reaching 400 points. He was only 20 points away from reaching the Yuan realm. Xiao Pingon seemed to be able to feel the restlessness in his body that was similar to the breaking of ice. Although Xiao Pingon had left the world of the Realm Bead, his consciousness and state were still immersed in the previous enlightenment. For Xiao Pingon, there was not much difference between reality and the Realm Bead. Xiao Pingon spread out his legs and started punching in the room. He was like a dragon leaping and a tiger leaping in a room. It was as if he was in a Realm Pearl. His punches and kicks were like cannons that exploded in the room. In the next moment, Xiao Pingon started running on the walls of the room like a ghost. His body was parallel to the ground. He was like a ferocious tiger running and leaping on a cliff. He was like a bird of prey fighting in the sky. When he punched and kicked at this moment, his punches and kicks were accompanied by the sound of air tearing. The air was torn apart by him like a piece of cloth. His punches and kicks were like a long whip that had been drawn out. The power transmitted to the tip of the whip was the strongest strike. The kung fu of these punches and kicks was no longer Xiao Pingon's realm. It was Li Guoxian's realm after comprehending the Tao on the mountain. And the one who comprehended the Tao was actually Xiao Pingon. At the end of the fight, Xiao Pingon's strength was like a dragon and a tiger. The clothes on his body were directly shattered by the strength of his body, revealing the tattoo of the motionless Ming of Scylla on Xiao Pingon's back. Xiao Pingon took out the black cobra whip from the space warehouse. With the whip in hand, Xiao Pingon's body was covered with shadows of the whip. Sometimes it was like lightning breaking through the sky. Sometimes it was like raging waves beating the shore. Sometimes it was like a tiger pouncing out. Sometimes it was like a goshawk soaring in the sky. It was unpredictable. The tip of the whip that would explode before was silent at this time, as if it had disappeared. In just a moment, the long whip disappeared. What appeared in Xiao Pingon's hand was a long saber. For a moment, the saber light was like snow. As Xiao Pingon chopped with the saber, there was a faint sound of a tiger's roar in the saber light. Although Xiao Pingon's previous saber skills were sharp and fast, they were definitely not at this realm. If the current Xiao Pingon fought against the Xiao Pingon of yesterday with a saber, no matter if they used saber or whip, the Xiao Pingon of yesterday would be killed in 3 moves by the current Xiao Pingon. The realm of the two was completely different. 7 styles of the fierce tiger. Xiao Pingon growled. The first style of the 7 styles of the fierce tiger. Tiger descends the mountain. In an instant, the saber light was like a tiger, full of an indomitable spirit. The second style, tiger roars in the forest. When this style was used, the bright saber light surrounded Xiao Pingon and danced around Xiao Pingon. For a moment, the area within 10 meters of Xiao Pingon was shrouded by the saber light. The third style, tiger grows wings. When this style was used, Xiao Pingon's whole body seemed to be flying in the room. His speed suddenly increased by several times. He was as fast as lightning, like a meteor streaking across the sky. The fourth style, tiger eyes covetous. When this move was used, a dazzling saber shadow flew in all directions. However, amidst the confusion, there was a hint of hidden killing intent. It was contained but not released, and it was full of deterrence. The fifth style, hungry tiger strikes the eagle. This style was somewhat unusual. Generally, saber attacks were from top to bottom, but this style was from bottom to top, as if heaven and earth were reversed. The sixth style, dragon crouches and tiger crouches. This style was a counterattack. The saber light instantly converged to protect the whole body. The whole body was hidden in the saber light. The tiger crouches and the dragon coils, indestructible. The seventh style, help the tiger. This style was soft, from movement to stillness. The saber light was stagnant, as if it was pulling countless invisible vortexes flying around the room. Except for Xia Pingon, no one could see the mystery of this style. The seven styles of the fierce tiger was what Xia Pingon had comprehended in the mountains. What he had just used with the whip was actually the seven styles of the fierce tiger. But the whip was different from the saber. The whip was more changeable. Before using the whip, Xia Pingon had also used the seven styles of the fierce tiger with his bare hands. But when he used his fists, it was a different scene. Xia Pingon's movements were like the incarnation of a fierce tiger. The aura on his body was overbearing. Between the opening and closing of his fists and palms, he was more powerful in close combat. When one was enlightened, as long as one had a brush in hand, whether it was a tiger, a cow, or a bird, it was the same. What one was painting was the spirit, the heart, and the Tao. It was the same for martial arts. When one reached a certain realm, it was the same whether one had a weapon in hand, a whip, or a saber. What one was painting was the spirit, the heart, and the Tao. After putting away the saber, Xia Pingon's body was steaming hot. His body and mind were very comfortable. Who would have thought that the Realm Pearl, just now, would not only allow Xia Pingon to obtain 3 summoning slots, but also allow Xia Pingon's painting skills to reach the realm of entering Tao. He had also made an unprecedented breakthrough in martial arts. Especially the latter, it directly allowed Xia Pingon's strength to reach a new level. Xia Pingon couldn't help but think of the real experience of returning to truth. In history, returning to truth later became a Taoist. Was it also when he gave up everything and entered the mountains to paint tigers that he attained enlightenment? Thinking of the fact that there was still one more realm pearl, Xia Pingon gathered his thoughts and continued to sit cross-legged in the room. He was ready to fuse with the realm pearl in one go. When he took out the realm pearl, there was some movement in the secret temple of the mandala. Xia Pingon looked over and saw that Song Jie had actually summoned 8 cows from the relief sculpture of returning to truth. It took 5 divine power to summon 1 cow. The 8 cows that had just been summoned were led away by the 8 farmer. The 40 points of divine power that had just been added were also consumed at once. Xia Pingon was speechless for a few seconds. However, when he thought that his divine power would be restored by half tomorrow and that those summoned cows might be of great use in the secret mandala, he was too lazy to care about it anymore. Xia Pingon took out the second realm pearl. A few divine words flashed on the second realm pearl. Fire beacon teasing the feudal lords. According to the information that Xia Pingon had previously grasped, this realm pearl of fire beacon teasing the feudal lords seemed to allow the summoner to master an illusion. Thinking of the story of Fire Beacon teasing the feudal lords, Xia Pingon seemed to have understood something. Could it be that this time he was going to be the King Yu of Zhou who loved beauties more than his country? A moment later, Xia Pingon's entire body was once again surrounded by the light cocoon of the Realm Pearl. Xia Pingon opened his eyes and saw that he was sitting in a magnificent hall. He was sitting on the main seat, and below the hall stood 2 rows of ministers. Reporting to my king, the envoy of the Su state requests an audience. A servant hurried to the hall and reported loudly. Xia Pingon was sizing up the ministers in the hall and turned a deaf ear to the servant's words. The Su state, this ancient vassal state of Huaxia, was a little interesting. This vassal state was not well known in history and was the vassal state of the Xia dynasty's second son, Chu Lai. It lasted for more than 1,400 years, from the Xia dynasty to the Shang dynasty. It was quite impressive. However, the Su state was not very good to the King Yu of Zhou. Later on, the King Yu of Zhou rebelled against the Su state. I won't see him. Xia Pingon waved his sleeves and said directly. The ministers in the hall all looked at each other and exchanged glances. A few of them looked worried, but no one spoke. Ever since Bao Si entered the palace, the king had become more and more unconcerned with court affairs. Every day, he indulged himself in sensual pleasures and became more and more absurd. Compared to other military affairs, It was not a big deal to not see a special envoy from his Sioux kingdom. "Where's Wisherfu?" Xiao Pingon suddenly asked. As soon as he finished his words, a fair-skinned, beardless minister walked out from among the ministers. "I'm here." That minister saluted while secretly sizing up Xiao Pingon's expression. When his eyes met Xiao Pingon's, he hurriedly lowered his head respectfully with a humble smile on his face. However, that glance just now made Guoshifu shiver inexplicably. "This bastard is Guoshifu?" Xiao Pingon curled his lips and revealed a smile on his face. This time, he could finally satisfy his craving for killing treacherous ministers. Did the palace guards take a step forward? Xiao Pingon asked again. Crash! All the guards in the hall stepped forward and saluted Xiao Pingon. The ministers looked at Xiao Pingon strangely, not knowing what Xiao Pingon was going to do. "Last night, I had a dream. In the dream, I met a golden-bodied immortal. The immortal said to me, 'Guoshifu, you're a very loyal minister.'" Xiao Pingon said to Guoshifu with a pleasant expression. Guoshifu was wild with joy at once. Thinking that his good luck was coming, he hurriedly said loudly, "I'm loyal to your majesty. Heaven can bear witness." Good, good. Xiao Pingon nodded. "I'm relieved to hear that. That deity also told me that there will be a great calamity in the future, and we need to choose a great loyal minister to burn as a sacrifice to the heavens. That deity said that you're the most suitable person. Today, you'll go and walk in the heavens." Guoshifu was still smiling, but when he heard this, he was so scared that he almost wet himself. His expression changed greatly. Your Majesty, I'm loyal to your Majesty. So you're the most suitable person." Xiao Pingon pointed at Guoshifu and said to the palace guards, "Prepare the firewood. Light the fire outside the hall and send Minister Guan his way. I'll watch with the other ministers, yes." A few sturdy guards came up and dragged Guoshifu out of the hall without saying a word. Your Majesty. Guoshifu was so scared that he wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf. If anyone wants to go to the heavens with Minister Gua, just say it. The more loyal ministers we send to the heavens, the more stable our great Zhou will be. Xiao Pingon glanced at the ministers who wanted to stand out. Those ministers' faces changed, and they hurriedly lowered their heads, not daring to say another word. Only after 10 minutes, a high pile of firewood had been lit in the square outside the palace. The firewood was poured onto the top of the pile of firewood. With a miserable shriek, Guoshi's father was directly thrown into the pile of firewood and was sent to the sky. This realm bead was too easy for Xiao Pingon. If he didn't play with it, it would be too boring to be King Yu of Zhou. Chapter 118. The realm pearl of the fire beacon Twing with the feudal lords increased the upper limit of the divine power in the Xiaoping and secret mandala by 10 points. Finally, it reached 410 points. It was only 10 points away from the 420 points of the second realm. After the fusion of the realm pearl was completed, there was an additional black iron relief sculpture of the King Yu of Zhou playing with the feudal lords. The smoke in the relief sculpture was like a living creature. It rose from the beacon tower on Mount Li and soared into the sky. Looking at the army of feudal lords who were scared witless to come to the rescue of the King Yu of Zhou, King Yu of Zhou hugged Bao Si and laughed heartily. The smoke in the relief sculpture was the summoning position condensed to cast the illusion. When the relief sculpture appeared, Xiao Pingon already had some additional content in his consciousness. It was about how to cast the illusion. The amount of divine power consumed by the summoner's illusion was not fixed. Instead, the amount of divine power consumed varied according to the different illusions that were cast. Moreover, this illusion was just like the smoke signal that played tricks on the dukes. It could not appear out of thin air without any reason. It could change into whatever it wanted and create whatever illusion it wanted. However, it had to have some realistic existence and realistic scenes as the foundation. The mystery of it was difficult to explain in a few words. Xiao Pingon, who was in the room, suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at the time again. Only 10 minutes had passed. Thinking of the illusion technique that he had mastered, Xiao Pingon pinched his fingers together and pointed to the ground. The light on the ground moved, and the black dragon appeared. This black dragon was not the black dragon. It seemed to be alive, but could not make a sound. It looked exactly the same as the black dragon. It wagged its tail and ran around Xiao Pingon twice, but it did not make a sound. Xiao Pingon reached out and touched it. The illusion of the black dragon disappeared at once. The illusion could deceive the eyes, but it could not deceive the ears, perception, and touch. It could not be used directly to fight or kill. However, when used at the right time, even if it could only deceive the eyes and vision, it should be very useful. Xiao Pingon pondered for a while and smiled. He opened the door and walked out. The speed of his fusion with the Realm Pearl was already very amazing. He reckoned that if he could get another Realm Pearl, he would be able to steadily advance to the second realm. After entering the second realm, the difference between his physical strength and that of ordinary summoners would be completely widened. Mo Yin Xiao, Yin Duo, and the others, in terms of physical strength, were at or below the first realm. Of course, this was related to the difficulty of obtaining realm pearls in the past. But this time, the world was in chaos and monsters were wreaking havoc. Monsters could be killed, monsters everywhere. Summoners could be killed, monsters everywhere. That guy did not look. As soon as he walked out of the room, Xiao Pingon saw Manzijin standing at the door of his room. He was standing guard for him. When the two of them were together, in addition to killing monsters together, Manzijin also unconsciously regarded himself as Xiao Pingon's bodyguard. When Xiao Pingon was resting, he would stand guard for Xiao Pingon. "You're awake?" Xiao Pingon asked. Manzijin smiled and scratched his head. "In the past, I would have been drunk for a long time. This time, I only slept for a few hours. It should be the effect of the body-strengthening pill. I feel that my tolerance for alcohol has increased by a lot. Haha, let's go. Let's go and move things," Xiao Pingon said to Manzijin. Manzijin nodded. Just now, Xiao Pingon took a look at his secret mandala. The flow of time in the secret mandala seemed to be different from that in the real world. The other space teleportation warehouses that the craftsman had built with the help of the farmer could now be used. They could be used to store bombs. Although the first space teleportation warehouse could still be used, a lot of things have been piled up inside. Medicinal pills and the equipment and food that Zhongtai had put inside only took up a small part. At this moment, the most things piled up in that space teleportation warehouse were the demon rats, demon fire spiders, and demon liquid spiders. The pharmacist only used the body parts of those monsters, not all of them. The rest of those monsters were taken away by the craftsman in the secret mandala. The skins of demon rats and their claws and teeth were made into leather armors by the craftsman in the secret mandala. The hard shells and limbs of demon fire spiders were made into ferocious armors, spears, and sharp bow and arrows. The craftsman in the secret mandala also made some extremely tough and strong ropes with the silk threads from the silk sacks of demon fire spiders and demon liquid spiders. They also extracted a very corrosive, weird liquid from demon liquid spiders and a lot of super combustible substances like asphalt from demon fire spiders. Xiao Pingon didn't know how to use these things at once. Therefore, he could only put them in the first space teleportation warehouse, which occupied the greater part of the space teleportation warehouse. Xiao Pingon took a round in the ammunition warehouse and loaded various big weapons, such as thermobaric bombs, fuel air bombs, thermite incendiary bombs, and individual fuel air bombs into a space teleportation warehouse as if they didn't cost him money. As a result, more than half of his newly built space teleportation warehouses were filled. Those drunk soldiers slept for a whole day and didn't wake up until the next morning, namely November 11th. It was the night of the full moon, the day that summoners looked forward to the most. Xiao Pingon gifted each soldier here with 5 rune bullets, 10 body-shaping pills, and a lot of food which would last them for a year. When it was dark, Xiao Pingon left this ammunition warehouse with Manzijin and returned to Xinchuan under the reluctance of those soldiers. Although those soldiers' physical strength couldn't match that of the elite soldiers of the special forces like Manzijin, according to the effect of body-strengthening pills, after taking 10 body-strengthening pills each, their physical strength and physique would be comparable to that of Manzajan a few days ago. They might even be slightly better than her. It was already dark outside the ammunition warehouse, while a bright bloody moon was hanging in the sky. It was very smooth on the way back. The divine energy in the caisson well of the shrine of Xia Ping and secret mandala was rapidly condensing like stars. On the way back, Xia Pingon had already condensed and recovered more than 70 points of divine energy. On the way back, they encountered 2 demon fire spiders and 3 demon rats, which were also easily dealt with by Xia Pingon. After returning to the base of the Special Logistics Department of Xinchuan, Xia Pingon took out some fuel air bombs and thermobaric bombs and started to modify them with Manzajan. They installed time-detonating switches on these big weapons. After working hard for a whole night, they finally finished modifying those big weapons. After one night of recovery, the divine energy in the Xia Ping and secret mandala increased by 205 points, plus the 135 points of divine energy in the mandala. On the morning of November 12th, the available divine energy in the Xia Ping and secret mandala had reached 340 points. Xia Pingon summoned 10 elite slave soldiers and 10 fireballs and put them in the secret mandala. After that, he took some Shunli Dan and primordial pills to replenish his divine energy. After making all kinds of preparations, Xia Pingon and Manzajan discussed the action plan. After that, they started to conserve their energy and wait for the night. Chapter 119. The night gradually deepened, and darkness once again shrouded the earth. The entire Xinchuan city was shrouded in a layer of blood-red moonlight. Yesterday was the 15th, and today was the 16th. The moon on the 15th was the 16th. Tonight, the visibility of Xinchuan city was higher than the previous nights. On the streets of Xinchuan city, among the ruins of tanks, vehicles, and buildings, groups of magical fire spiders and magical rats could be seen wandering around from time to time. The huge magical fire spiders and the agile magical rats would raise their heads from time to time, looking at the blood-red moon in the sky with cold and bloody eyes. The entire city was deathly still, and the slightest movement would attract the attention of the surrounding magical creatures. On the contrary, the 2 permanent spatial rifts in Xinchuan city had been incomparably quiet since the last eruption and hadn't spat anything out from them. At 11 o'clock in the evening, a layer of clouds drifted over, quietly covering the blood-red moonlight. The entire city was instantly shrouded in the shadow of a large layer of clouds. At this time, on the top floor of a ruined building in the south of Xinchuan city, Manzajan's figure emerged from the ruins, carrying a thermobaric explosive launcher. Manzajan swallowed his saliva and used the launcher scope to aim at a 2-story building more than 2 kilometers away. There were 2 magical fire spiders in the surroundings of that building, and he had just seen 3 magical rats enter that building. Now, Xia Pingon's order came from the earpiece of the communication device in his ear. Manzajan pulled the trigger, and the thermobaric explosive launcher flew toward that 2-story building with a bit of flame. Boom! The power of the thermobaric explosive launcher was too terrifying. Manzajan only saw the 2-story building more than 2 kilometers away flash with a red light, and a fierce flame suddenly razed that building to the ground. The magical rats inside the building might not even be left. Even a magical fire spider near the building was instantly torn to shreds by the thermobaric explosive launcher. Only the magical rat that was a little further away was thrown to the ground by the shockwave of the explosion and was blown more than 10 meters away. After the thermobaric explosive launcher was fired, Manzajan had already thrown away the thermobaric explosive launcher and at the same time pressed the detonation remote in his hand. Almost at the same time that the thermobaric explosive launcher's flame dissipated, outside Xinchuan city, in the west, east, and southeast, 3 fierce flames burst out, and the roar of the explosion shook the whole city. The whole city was alarmed, and those magical beasts that were close to the explosion crazily ran toward it. It was too exciting, and it had been a long time since there was such a big movement. Manzajan's adrenaline was crazily secreted. Seeing those magical beasts rushing toward the explosion, Manzajan hurriedly carried the launcher and retreated to a safe hiding place. His mission for tonight had been completed, and the rest was up to Xia Pingon. The restless magical spiders and magical rats in the city were alarmed by the explosion and rushed toward the place of the explosion. Many magical beasts on the streets were suddenly emptied. Xia Pingon seized this opportunity, and while using his remote vision ability to observe the situation on the streets, he rushed toward those magical spiders' nests. Yes, the purpose of the explosion was to lure the tiger away from the mountain and make those magical beasts in the city move, creating an opportunity for Xia Pingon to get close to those magical spiders' nests. Xia Pingon had been here once, so he was familiar with the way this time. The magical beasts along the way were mobilized. Xia Pingon used his remote vision to avoid those magical beasts and ran in the city like flying. When he encountered magical beasts that he could not avoid, he would summon an elite slave soldier and use the elite slave soldier to make a noise and attract those magical beasts from the streets to other places. But soon, Xia Pingon approached those magical spiders' nests, entered the building, and rushed toward the ventilation of the building. Magical rats appeared in front of Xia Pingon and were wandering in the corridor of the building. Xia Pingon took out a long sword and rushed toward those magical rats as fast as lightning. Before those magical rats could react, the long sword had already cut off their heads. He swept across the corridor like a gust of wind and used the fierce tiger descends the mountain to open a path with his long sword. The saber light was indomitable and directly cut through the vital parts of those magical rats. Like a fierce tiger pouncing on a sheep, he easily killed those magical rats and, at the same time, put the corpses of those magical rats into the space warehouse. Xia Pingon was so fast that after killing those magical rats, they did not even have time to cry out. Soon, Xia Pingon rushed to the ventilation. He opened the cover of the ventilation and quickly drilled into it. Due to his previous experience, Xia Pingon's speed was even faster this time. In less than a few minutes, he had made his way through the ventilation pipe to the place he had been last time. The huge underground shelter filled with spider eggs. Everything was the same as it was several days ago. However, those magical spiders seemed to have been affected by the explosion outside, as they had increased in number. Lying in the ventilation, Xia Pingon rapidly took out the things that he had prepared. At the ventilation of the ventilation, he put several bundles of tear gas grenades that had been set with time consecration. After that, he took out the fuel air explosive and thermobaric grenades from the space warehouse. As he retreated in the ventilation, he put those magical spiders into the ventilation duct one by one like stuffing sausages. The ventilation ducts of the underground shelter were abnormally sturdy. When they were designed, they had considered the various needs of the harsh war environment. The ducts were on the walls and sturdy iron frames, and could easily withstand the weight of the weapons that Xia Pingon took out from the dimensional warehouse, which easily weighed over a ton. The thickness of the ventilation duct was just right for the thermobaric grenades and fuel air explosive grenades to be placed inside. Xia Pingon put more than 10 thermobaric grenades, dozens of fuel air explosive grenades, and a pile of numerous thermite incendiary grenades into the ventilation duct as if they were free. The ventilation duct became a huge explosive barrel. After that, Xia Pingon quietly and quickly withdrew from the ventilation duct. After coming out of the building, Xia Pingon restored the ventilation duct to its original state. After that, he quickly ran towards the other two places. Like before, after consuming several elite slave soldiers, Xia Pingon lured away the monsters that he could not avoid along the way. Following the same pattern, he directly stuffed a pile of thermobaric grenades, fuel air explosive grenades, and thermite incendiary grenades into the ventilation ducts of the other two underground shelters. It took Xia Pingon more than 3 hours to finish all this. At about 3 o'clock in the morning, he rapidly withdrew from the last underground shelter that was full of demon rats. The moment Xia Pingon withdrew from the city, the tear gas grenades that he had arranged in the 3 underground shelters were detonated at the same time. The tear gas grenades didn't have any explosive power. With a light bang, A large amount of smoke diffused into the underground shelters from the ventilation ducts. Those huge spiders were very sensitive to the movements in the underground shelters. As soon as the smoke of the tear gas grenades entered the underground shelters, the huge spiders in the surroundings were alarmed. They thought that something had happened inside the underground shelters. Numerous huge spiders swarmed into the underground shelters. All the huge spiders in the nearby streets swarmed into the underground shelters. The situation in the other two shelters was the same. As soon as the smoke of the tear gas grenades filled the underground shelters, those demon rats and demon fire spiders all swarmed into the underground shelters. Xiao Pingon quickly arrived at the rendezvous point outside the city, where he and Manzajan had agreed to meet. The rendezvous point was on top of an abandoned warehouse in the suburbs. It was more than 5,000 meters away from the nearest spider nest. It was even further away from the other two underground shelters. How is it? Manzajan saw that Xiao Pingon had returned and let out a sigh of relief. It's all set up. The tear gas grenades have probably been detonated. Those monsters on the streets around the shelters are all rushing into the shelters. They're ready to watch a good show, Xiao Pingon said as he and Manzajan lay on the roof and watched the movements in the distance. Xiao Pingon had the ability to see from afar. He could see more clearly from the sky. The demonic fire spiders, demonic rats, and demonic liquid spiders on the streets around the sanctuaries were all restless and rushed towards the three underground sanctuaries. Looking down from the sky, the demonic creatures were densely packed, and it was unknown how many were rushing into the sanctuaries. Another 2 minutes passed. Xiao Pingon and Manzajan both looked at the time on their watches. When the underground shelters were filled with monsters. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Xiao Pingon looked at his watch and silently counted down in his heart. Rumble. The sound of a train passing through the tracks came from beneath their feet. The sound of the vibration came from underground and could be felt by the entire Xinchuan city. In the next second, the two of them felt the air around them begin to move. It seemed to be surging in the direction of the underground shelters. When the bombs exploded, a huge negative pressure appeared in the underground shelters. The locations of the three shelters instantly became the three negative pressure centers in the city. A few seconds later, dazzling flames gushed out from the shelters. The building was shaking, and all the glass within a few kilometers was shattered. Every air duct and underground entrance in the shelter was spewing fire. The road was torn apart, the building collapsed, and a dazzling mushroom cloud rose from the ground. The violent shockwave swept across half of the city center. The entire Xinchuan city was shaking as if it was sitting on a bumpy train. Those who didn't know would think that 3 volcanoes were erupting under Xinchuan city. The 3 dazzling lights and mushroom clouds were like 3 torches sticking out of the ground. At this moment, the entire night sky of Xinchuan city was lit up. Under the power of this explosion, let alone a few demon fire spiders, even a lump of steel would melt and explode into ashes. The 3 explosion points were the 3 most densely packed centers of monsters in the city. At this moment, who knew how many monsters had turned into ashes? Xiao Pingon was startled by the power of the explosion. A moment later, Xiao Pingon discovered that gunshots, explosions, and summoners' fireballs were heard in more than one place in Xinchuan city. Chapter 120. Damn it, the 87th Legion didn't attack. What's with that explosion? Didn't you say the Legion was attacking? How would I know? I thought it was the army. How could an ordinary person cause such a big commotion? And didn't you notice that the number of magical creatures on the streets has decreased by quite a bit? On a certain street in Xinchuan City, 2 summoners, one fat and one thin, were running for their lives on the ruined street. They were communicating with each other as they ran. More than 20 magic rats and 2 magic fire spiders were madly chasing after them. At this moment, the remaining magical creatures in Xinchuan City were about to go crazy. They were abnormally restless and violent. In those 3 loud explosions, who knew how many magical creatures were killed? However, one could clearly feel that the number and density of magical creatures in the city had decreased by a lot. A burning spider web flew over. The two summoners who were running for their lives hastily jumped away. That burning spider web instantly pierced through a small car parked on the side of the road. The small car immediately exploded. The dust and air wave covered the two summoners who were running for their lives. The slightly fat summoner casually threw out a fireball, igniting a magical rat that was charging towards them. It turned into ashes and then continued running. But they didn't run very far before the two summoners' faces instantly turned pale. Because in front of them, more than 10 magical rats and a magical liquid spider appeared. Now, with no way forward and no pursuers behind, the two were blocked in the middle of the street. What was worse was that there were open shops on both sides of the street. Even if the two could rush into the shops, they wouldn't be able to escape. They would die even faster. Am I, Feng Yi-Dao, going to die in the mouths of these magical creatures today? I've worked so hard for so many years and finally became a summoner. I still don't have a girlfriend. The slightly thin summoner looked up at the sky and sighed, his eyes brimming with tears. What are you yelling for? Let's fight to the death with these magical creatures. Hurry up and use your trump cards. Maybe we can still charge out. The slightly fat summoner directly cursed. He felt around and took out a shotgun. He madly opened fire at the magical rats and magical liquid spiders blocking their way. The shotgun naturally couldn't kill the magical rats and magical liquid spiders. However, the flying bullets still caused the magical rats charging over to bleed all over. They squeaked loudly and slowed down the magical rats' movements. The thinner summoner also went all out. He waved his hand and summoned 5 battle soldiers. The 5 battle soldiers directly rushed towards the devil rats in front of them and started to fight them. The fatter summoner fired his gun and roared, "Prison circle!" The ground under the feet of the 2 magic liquid spiders started glowing yellow. The magic liquid spiders were instantly bound to the ground by the yellow light and could no longer charge forward. They could only spit out extremely corrosive, sticky spider silk at the 2 summoners in a fit of rage. The 2 summoners hurriedly dodged the sticky spider silk. One of them threw himself to the ground. The fat summoner didn't care about his image and directly rolled away. The sticky spider silk didn't bind the 2 summoners. After falling to the ground was cut and corroded by the spider silk, leaving deep marks. The ones blocking the road in front were temporarily blocked, but the ones chasing from behind were about to arrive. Although the magic liquid spider imprisoned on the ground couldn't move for the time being, its magic liquid spider's lethality was terrifying. Moreover, the magic liquid spider was huge and blocked half of the path. If they wanted to rush over, they would have to do a face-to-face dance with the magic liquid spider. At such a close distance, it was almost impossible to dodge the magic liquid spider's magic liquid spider silk and its 2 pincers. Just as the 2 summoners were in a desperate situation, the agitated magic liquid spider suddenly stopped moving. A layer of white frost condensed on its body, and even the magic liquid spider silk that it was about to spit out froze. The next second, Xiao Pingin's figure was like a big bird. He stepped on a magical liquid spider's back and flew out from behind. While he was in the air, the long saber in his hand flashed and chopped off the heads of the 2 magical rats pouncing on him. As soon as he landed, the saber flashed and beheaded several more magical rats. An expert. The 2 summoners, who were saved from death's door, were so excited that they almost cried. However, the pursuers were about to arrive. The 2 summoners hurriedly rushed towards Xiao Pingan and shouted for help. Xiao Pingan's figure passed by the 2 summoners and rushed towards the more than 20 magical rats and 2 magical fire spiders that were chasing them. After easily avoiding the 2 fiery spider silk, the 2 basic mini Xuanwu summoned by Xiao Pingan flew out. As expected, the flames and life aura of the 2 magical fire spiders were instantly extinguished and frozen. Without the magical fire spiders, the remaining 20 magical rats were just food for Xiao Pingan. With a tiger roaring in the mountain, Xiao Pingan's saber flashed and chopped off the heads of the 5 magical rats that had just besieged him, sending them flying away. Under the siege of the magical rats, Xiao Pingan was as agile as smoke. His attacks were fast and fierce. As long as a magical rat approached him, he would kill it with one slash. In the blink of an eye, half of the 20 magical rats were killed by Xiao Pingan alone. The 2 summoners, one fat and one thin, had just run to the frozen magical liquid spider and wanted to escape when they heard the screams of the magical rats behind them. When they turned around, they were dumbfounded. In the blink of an eye, the flames on the 2 magical fire spiders were extinguished. Like the magical liquid spider beside them, they were frozen on the ground, emitting cold air and covered with frost. More than half of the magical rats that were chasing them had been killed. Some magical rats had even turned around and prepared to escape. Strong. Too strong. These days, the 2 summoners had only seen people being chased by magical creatures everywhere, but they had never seen anyone who could chase these magical creatures everywhere. Moreover, the few demon rats that were running away didn't manage to escape either. Xiao Pingan rushed up and killed them in the blink of an eye with a single slash. The battle was actually over in such a short time. 2 magical fire spiders, 1 magical liquid spider, and 20 to 30 magical rats were actually killed by a summoner right under their noses. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. Originally, they wanted to escape, but at this time, they were too embarrassed to do so. When the 2 summoners saw Xiao Pingan kill the last magical rat, he waved his hand, and the corpse of the magical rat disappeared, which shocked them even more. They exchanged astonished looks with each other. Spatial equipment. This summoner actually has spatial equipment? Xiao Pingan ignored the shocked looks of the 2 summoners and kept the corpses of the magical rats that he killed into the spatial warehouse. These magical rats were all elixirs. At this moment, the spatial warehouse in the Xiao Ping and secret mandala had been divided into 5 by Xiao Pingan, covering an area of more than 35,000 cubic meters. The 5 spatial warehouses were numbered by A, B, C, D, and E, respectively. They were Warehouse A, Warehouse B, and Warehouse C. From today onwards, he would use the spatial warehouse more and more often, and it would be more and more difficult to hide this ability. Xiao Pingan simply did not hide this ability and openly displayed it. The ability to hide could indeed be used as a trump card, which could come in handy at certain critical moments. But more often, the power and ability displayed in the light of day would be more awe-inspiring and could bring more benefits. It was like some countries could manufacture several nuclear weapons, but they could only hide them. However, for several big countries in the Security Council, they could openly display the number of their nuclear arsenals without fear of others knowing. Furthermore, given the current situation, between hiding his ability and directly obtaining the elixir materials that he needed the most, Xiao Pingan would definitely choose the latter. If he could not even pass this hurdle, it would be meaningless to talk about the future. In front of the 2 summoners, Xiao Pingan kept the corpses of the 2 magical fire spiders into the spatial warehouse. In the future, these magical creatures' corpses would be kept in Warehouse A. Seeing Xiao Pingan keep the corpses of the huge magical fire spiders in an instant, the 2 summoners were shocked. How large was the spatial equipment needed to store them? Xiao Pingan quickly came to the 2 dumbfounded pharmacists. Without saying anything, he directly put the magical liquid spider and the corpses of the several demon rats that he had killed into the spatial warehouse. Then he pointed to the other demon rats' corpses on the ground and asked, "Do you want these demon rats' corpses?" The 2 summoners, one fat and one thin, exchanged glances with each other before shaking their heads together. They could not take these things away even if they wanted to, and they had no use for them. Xiao Pingan waved his hand, and the other 6 demon rats' corpses on the ground were collected by Xiao Pingan. Xiao Pingan then took out a medicinal pill bottle. As soon as the bottle was opened, a strange fragrance drifted out. When the 2 pharmacists smelled this medicinal pill, they swallowed their saliva fiercely. They were too familiar with this smell. It was LV1 Shunli Dan. Seeing Xia Pingon swallow 6 Shunli Dan pills in one go like eating beans, the two summoners were dumbfounded. F***CK. Isn't he treating Shunli Dan as Shunli Dan? In front of the two people, Xia Pingon finished the medicinal pills and flaunted his wealth. Then he waved his hand and threw 2 small glass bottles to the two people. There's a primordial spirit pill in each bottle. 1 primordial spirit pill can recover 5 points of divine energy. Although it's not much, it's better than nothing. Take it as an exchange for those demon rats' corpses. The two looked at the concoction bottles in their hands with strange expressions. Demon rats can be exchanged for medicinal pills? They're such a good thing. The fat pharmacist's expression suddenly changed, and he looked at the street behind Xia Pingon. Phantom demon spirits. Xia Pingon suddenly turned around in a handsome manner, and the Embark 98 instantly appeared in his hand. Bang! 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 3 phantom demon spirits that had just rushed out of the street were hit by the 3 rune bullets from more than 70 meters away. With a flash of fire, they burned and turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. In the next second, gunshots were heard in the distance. Without saying a word, Xia Pingon's figure flashed, and he rushed into the distance, leaving the 2 summoners who were still in a daze here. Chapter 121. I remember now. That summoner is called Xia Pingon, the priest of the 87th Legion. He used to be a member of the Committee of Order. The fatter summoner looked at Xia Pingon's back and slapped his head. Xia Pingon? I've heard of this name before. I heard that his Requiem spell is very powerful. The thinner summoner asked in astonishment. He seemed to have recalled something as well. He didn't leave. When the 87th Legion gave the order to retreat that night, the summoners of the Demon Suppression Guard Station in Xinchuan City were all left behind to snipe the demon spirits. Xia Pingon should have stayed behind as well. I didn't expect him to be so powerful. The fatter summoner sighed. Did you see the summoning spell he used to kill those 3 spiders? It seemed to be some kind of powerful water-type summoning spell that froze those spiders. Also, he used a handgun to kill those 3 demon spirits. His handgun should be loaded with rune bullets. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to kill those demon spirits. The fatter summoner nodded with certainty. Can this primordial spirit pill really recover divine power? The thinner summoner doubtfully held the pill in his hand. We'll know once we try it. If he didn't come, the 2 of us would have become corpses by now. If he wanted to harm us, he only needed to wait for those demon fire spiders to kill us before coming out to take advantage of us. Why think so much? As the fat summoner spoke, he opened the bottle and ate the initial god pill in one gulp. After closing his eyes for a few seconds, he suddenly opened his eyes and revealed a joyful expression. Sure enough, it increased my divine power by 5 points. Hearing the fatter summoner's words, the thinner summoner also ate the primordial spirit pill in the bottle. A few seconds later, he revealed a happy expression. It really is the same as the rank 1 Shunli Dan, but the divine power increase is a bit lower, exchanging the corpse of a demon rat for a chance to increase divine power. Where else could I find such a good thing in the past? What do we do now? The thinner summoner asked. What do you think? The 2 looked at each other and exchanged glances. Then, without saying a word, they chased after Xia Pingon at the same time. In such a chaotic time, instead of running around by himself, it would be better to stay by the side of a strong person. Moreover, that Xia Pingon seemed to be quite reliable, so he should be able to hug his thigh. At the very least, he would be able to learn about the situation in Xinchuan City and the outside world from him. For the past few days, they had been hiding in one place, quietly waiting for their divine power to recover. They knew nothing about the situation outside. When they heard the commotion outside, they thought it was the 87th Legion attacking again. Since they had recovered half of their divine power yesterday, the 2 of them took the opportunity to rush out. They didn't expect the situation outside to be completely different from what they had imagined. When the 2 of them followed Xia Pingon to the place where the gunshots came from, they saw the corpses of a demon fire spider, 7 to 8 demon rats, and more than 20 warriors of the 87th Legion wearing military uniforms on the ground. Just like them, These warriors also ran out from their hiding places after hearing the huge commotion in the city. Under the shocked and excited gazes of the warriors, Xia Pingon calmly stored the corpses of the demon rats and demon fire spiders into his spatial warehouse. After Xia Pingon and the warriors exchanged a few words, the warriors saluted Xia Pingon and hastily withdrew. Tonight, Xinchuan City was very lively. The huge commotion and explosion made many people who were still hiding in Xinchuan City think it was the 87th Legion attacking. In addition, many of the magical creatures wandering around the city were killed by the explosion. The magical creatures on the streets suddenly became sparse. Many people took the opportunity to rush out from their hiding places. There were quite a lot of people hiding in the city before this. The warriors of the 87th Legion who couldn't evacuate in time, some summoners who got separated from each other, some citizens who couldn't evacuate in time, and even some people of all kinds. These people could be considered to have some ability to find a place to hide for so many days after the city fell. Those who couldn't evacuate with the 87th Legion in time and didn't have any ability were probably dead these days. They couldn't have held on until now. As for the demon spirits of the phantom monsters, Xia Pingon and Manzijin had killed a lot of them a few days ago. Now, the demon spirits of the phantom monsters weren't as rampant as before. They all hid and didn't dare to wander around the streets casually. If they wandered around, they might be sniped by Manzijin. Xia Pingon took the opportunity to kill the lone or small groups of demon rats and demon spiders on the streets while saving people. The magical creatures in the city were in a mess tonight. If he didn't take the opportunity to make some money, he would be letting himself down. As long as he could get the corpses of the demon rats and demon spiders into his spatial warehouse, Xia Pingon would be able to get his hands on Shunli Dan medicine. The more people Xia Pingon saved, the more people Xia Pingon saved. Unknowingly, many people followed him and fought by his side. Among the group of people, there were a few summoners and a large group of 87th Legion warriors who hadn't retreated. As for the warriors of the 87th Legion who could hold on until now, Xia Pingon didn't hesitate to throw a rocket launcher to each of them. There was enough ammunition. Xia Pingon used his long-range vision ability to observe the ground from the sky. He was alerted in advance of any magical creatures that appeared on the streets around them and directed everyone's actions. With this, the group of people led by Xia Pingon instantly became more powerful. They fought with great teamwork and momentum. The summoners were responsible for killing the demon spirits of the phantom monsters that dared to show themselves. In order to conserve divine power, Xia Pingon was responsible for dealing with most of the demon rats that got close to him. As for the demon fire spiders and demon liquid spiders, they would usually be hit by the rocket launchers the moment they showed themselves. When they encountered a large group of demon fire spiders, demon liquid spiders, and the like, Xia Pingon would move his hand and take out a single personal fuel air bomb from his space warehouse. With the personal fuel air bomb as a weapon of mass destruction, he would be able to destroy a large group of them with one shot. Xia Pingon led such a large group of people and fought their way through several streets in Xinchuan City. The warriors' blood was boiling as they fought. They had never felt so good fighting those magical creatures before. In fact, this was the way the summoners and warriors fought together. The summoners used spells to restrain and kill the demon spirits, while the warriors used weapons of mass destruction, such as rocket launchers, to deal with those large spiders. The long-range vision ability was used to control the overall situation of the battlefield. On the left side of the street ahead, there are 2 demon fire spiders and 1 phantom monster. Prepare the rocket launchers. As Xia Pingon led his people to fight on the street, the 6 warriors following him had already taken out their rocket launchers. They divided themselves into 2 rows and half-knelt on the ground. They aimed at the left side of the street ahead. The 2 in front would fire the first wave. If they missed, the 4 warriors behind them would have 2 more chances to finish them off. This was the 3-part attack of the rocket launcher. As soon as Xia Pingon's voice fell, the 2 demon fire spiders and the phantom monster's demon spirits rushed out. 2 rocket launchers flew out and directly hit the 2 demon fire spiders. The rocket launchers, which could pierce through the armor of an ordinary tank, directly broke through the powerful defensive layer of the two demon fire spiders and blew their bodies apart. As soon as the phantom monster's demon spirit rushed out, it was turned into ashes by a summoner's fireball. At this moment, Xiao Pingon suddenly raised his head and looked at the sky. A strange sound came from the sky. A small military drone quickly flew over from the sky. This was the first time that Xiao Pingon had seen a drone fly over after fighting for so many days in Xinchuan City. Wild Harrier Reconnaissance Drone. The other warriors in the team also discovered it. Some of them suddenly exclaimed, "Could it be that our troops have arrived?" The drone flying over made everyone excited. At the same time, Manzijin, who was responsible for sniping the phantom monster's demon spirits from the periphery, discovered something strange. Behind them, in the southeast direction of Xinchuan City, several combat squads appeared. There were summoners and quite a few warriors in those combat squads. It looked like there were quite a few of them. Sir, a combat squad has appeared in the southeast direction of Xinchuan City. There are summoners and warriors in the squad. They seem to be from the 87th Legion. Xiao Pingon glanced at them with his remote vision ability and also saw them. The summoners in those combat squads that appeared in the southeast direction of Xinchuan City looked vaguely familiar. They seemed to be the summoners of the Ejo Demon Suppression Squad. They had fought side by side with him when they were retreating from Xinchuan City a few days ago. They were the demon spirits who had sniped the phantom monster's demon spirits. This discovery shook Xiao Pingon's spirit. He was finally not fighting alone. Chapter 122. The sounds of gunfire and explosions in Xinchuan City had been ringing throughout the night. Since the fall of Xinchuan, last night had been the most turbulent night, but it was also the night to restore the dignity of mankind. In addition to Xiao Pingon and the others who had stayed in Xinchuan, the teams that had returned to Xinchuan City last night had also taught the monsters a good lesson and killed a lot of them. Perhaps it was a tacit understanding, or perhaps it was the most effective way to deal with the monsters that humans had explored with their wisdom and experience. The composition and fighting style of the teams that had returned to Xinchuan last night were exactly the same as the fighting style of the teams of warriors and summoners led by Xiao Pingon. The drones were responsible for monitoring the battlefield from above, searching for enemies, and providing information about the battlefield for the teams, just like the remote viewing ability. The summoners were responsible for killing the phantom monsters and demon spirits that appeared, while the combat teams, paired with the summoners, were responsible for dealing with the demon rats and the big spiders. More than half of the members of the combat teams were carrying heavy weapons, such as rocket launchers and rifle grenades. There were too many monsters entrenched in Xinchuan City. Last night's battle and Xiao Pingon's 3 explosions in the core area of the monsters had caused heavy damage to the monsters entrenched in Xinchuan City, but there were still a lot of monsters left in Xinchuan City. It was not something that could be dealt with in a single battle. As the sky gradually brightened, all the teams that had been fighting in the city for most of the night quickly withdrew from Xinchuan City with great tacit understanding. Xiao Pingon originally wanted to go to the 3 shelters that he had blown up to see if he could get some realm pearls. But after looking at it with his remote viewing ability, he completely gave up on the idea. The 3 underground shelters and the buildings on the ground had completely collapsed. The area within 100 meters of shelters was like a volcanic crater, billowing thick smoke, and raging fires were still burning. The thermite bombs he had buried in the explosion sites produced a temperature of nearly 3,000 degrees Celsius that could melt steel. The area around the entrances of the 3 underground shelters had completely collapsed, and the high temperature produced by the explosions had caused the buildings connected to the ventilation ducts of the shelters to burn. The explosions at the 3 locations had killed countless demonic creatures, numbering in the thousands. There was definitely more than 1 realm pearl. It was said that realm pearls were impervious to fire and water, and were as hard as diamond. However, the explosion had produced such a huge force and shockwave, and realm pearls were such small things. Even if a realm pearl had exploded, it would have been buried underground or blown away by the shockwave. The underground of the three shelters had completely collapsed and were buried by tens of thousands of tons of debris. It was impossible to enter even if they wanted to. Xiao Pingan used his remote vision to carefully search the area near the explosion. Other than the raging fire, thick smoke, and some broken pieces of demon rats and demon fire spiders, he didn't see a single realm pearl. At least, he didn't see any realm pearls in the nearby streets. Xiao Pingan had no choice but to withdraw from Xinchuan City with his men. Xiao Pingan led his men to the outskirts of the city where the Special Logistics Office was located. The combat squads that entered Xinchuan last night also withdrew in the same direction. Several demon rats and demon fire spiders wandering in the town near the small airport of the Special Logistics Office were killed by the squads that retreated here. When the sky was completely bright, everyone met up at the Special Logistics Office. Manzigen, a soldier nearly 2 meters tall with oil paint on his face and a heavy machine gun easily in his hand, saw Xiao Pingan, Manzigen, and the others coming over. He immediately shouted and rushed over. Manzigen was also excited and quickly ran over. Chung, Tianke, the two men hugged each other and then punched each other's shoulders. "I thought you were dead." "I'm not dead. It's just that Xiao Dao and the others." The soldier with the heavy machine gun burst into tears, and so did Manzigen. Xiao Pingan immediately knew that the soldier with the heavy machine gun should be Manzigen's comrade-in-arms. Judging from that person's spirit, he should also be a member of the 87th Corps Fire Dragon Commando. "Everyone, how have you been?" Xiao Pingan also greeted the summoners over there. Although the summoners were not familiar with Xiao Pingan before, they had fought side by side when covering the evacuation of the Corps and the civilians that night. They had even sniped the demon specters and could be considered comrades. Naturally, they felt emotional when they met again, as if they were old friends. "Xiao Pingan, it's really you." The summoners also saw Xiao Pingan, and both sides were excited. When the soldiers in those teams heard the name Summer Priest, they all looked towards Xiao Pingan, then stood at attention and saluted Xiao Pingan. Their eyes were full of respect as they looked at Xiao Pingan. Those soldiers did not expect the 87th Legion's High Priest to be fighting in Xinchuan City until now. "Long time no see." The soldiers on the other side separated, and an officer wearing a ghillie suit, a pair of glasses, a face full of smoke, a beard, and a rocket launcher on his back walked towards Xiao Pingan. "Staff Officer," that person was Guowei. Seeing Guowei again, Xiao Pingan noticed that this staff officer Guo's aura was different from before. It was an aura that had been tempered by the flames of war. More than 10 minutes later, Xiao Pingan and Guowei were chatting and exchanging information on the airport runway outside the Special Logistics Department. Not far away, the soldiers who had just arrived were moving things from the Special Logistics Department's warehouse. There was still some food and weapons stored here that those people urgently needed. There were also many people lying on the ground resting. A group of summoners had gathered together and were also exchanging information. Xiao Pingan and Staff Officer Guo chatted as they walked, and before they knew it, they had arrived at the airport lawn far away from the crowd. Hearing Guowei say this with his own ears, Xiao Pingan felt a little uncomfortable for a moment. Chairman Tang was sacrificed. Guowei nodded and said in a low voice, "When we evacuated that night, Chairman Tang wasn't the first to evacuate. Instead, he stayed behind to command the troops to cover the evacuation of the residents of Xinchuan City. His vehicle was hit by the artillery of the tank controlled by Mo Ling, and he was sacrificed on the spot." Xiao Pingan felt a little suffocated in his heart. Up until now, the image of Tang Guofeng squatting on the grass in the stadium to tidy up the appearance of the soldiers who had died in battle kept appearing in his mind. War was just that cruel. Cities would fall one after another, ordinary people might die, and people with high positions might also be sacrificed. Apart from strength, identity, and status could not be used as shields in front of bullets and artillery shells. Then what's the situation of the 87th Legion now? Xiao Pingan finally asked after being silent for a long time. "The troops of the 87th Legion have been scattered, and we have lost contact with the Supreme Military Management Committee. The Mo Ling wave that appeared that night didn't just appear in Xinchuan City, but all over the world. The military of all countries were caught off guard because no one expected that so many Mo Ling would come out of the spatial rift. The wrong allocation of summoners caused an irreparable disaster and loss. What about you guys? What's your situation now? Guowei smiled bitterly. We've gathered some people now. Some of the soldiers of the 87th Legion who were separated, some of the fleeing citizens, and some of the summoners from the Demon Suppression Guards have slowly gathered near Yunwan Mountain. The 87th Legion has a base and ammunition depot at Yunwan Mountain. There are about 20,000 people gathered at Yunwan Mountain, and the number of soldiers and summoners is only about 3,000. Xiao Pingon knew about Yunwan Mountain. It was located in the southeast of Xinchuan City, more than 170 kilometers away from Xinchuan City. It was relatively remote, and there were several military farms nearby. He didn't expect some people to gather there. What's your plan? Actually, we don't have a plan yet. Guowei shook his head. After the 11th, the summoners of Yunwan Mountain recovered some of their strength, so everyone discussed sending a few teams to Xinchuan to check out the situation here before making a plan. Unexpectedly, after we arrived, we discovered a huge explosion in Xinchuan City. The magical creatures in the city were very chaotic, and there were even people fighting, so we joined in. Chapter 123. After talking to Guowei for a while, Xiao Pingon finally understood Guowei's current situation. Guowei also understood what the explosion in Xinchuan City last night was about. Guowei was also shocked that Xiao Pingon could cause such a huge commotion. The situation at Yunwan Mountain Base was much better than Xinchuan City, but it wasn't very optimistic either. Yunwan Mountain Base didn't have a leader. A group of summoners and a group of soldiers from the 87th Legion gathered together. No one had enough prestige to convince everyone. There were a few colonels, a few lieutenants, and a bunch of majors in Yunwan Mountain Base. They weren't even from the same unit and couldn't communicate with the Legion, so it was more difficult to unify them. There were also many citizens who escaped from Xinchuan City in Yunwan Mountain Base. Many citizens picked up a lot of weapons when they escaped. Some citizens gathered together to form various groups of guards and small organizations. Once they had guns in their hands, they weren't much different from soldiers. Due to the current situation, it wasn't convenient for the soldiers at Yunwan Mountain Base to confiscate the guns in the hands of the citizens, so it wasn't easy to restrain them. In general, the forces at Yunwan Mountain Base were made up of three parties. One party was the armed citizens, one party was the soldiers of the 87th Legion, and the last party was the summoners. These three parties each occupied some farms, buildings, and supplies in Yunwan Mountain Base. Many things were decided through discussion. This time, Guowei brought a few teams to Xinchuan to investigate the situation. This was also the result of the discussion between the soldiers of the 87th Legion and the summoners. Yunwan Mountain Base still has radio stations that can communicate with the outside world and receive some news, but the news outside is too chaotic. Many civilian and private radio stations have also joined in. All kinds of news contradict each other, and it's hard to tell whether it's true or false. Some people are even deliberately using the radio stations to spread all kinds of rumors and panic, hoping to fish in troubled waters. In short, the entire Great Fire country is in chaos. Some cities may not have collapsed yet, but the specific situation is very difficult to understand. Xiao Pingon nodded. The entire Great Fire country was now in a state of anarchy. Even the highest military council had lost contact. One could imagine how chaotic the situation was. What do you plan to do when you go back? Xiao Pingon asked. Of course, we'll report the current situation in Xinchuan. The magical creatures that occupied Xinchuan suffered heavy losses last night. They're actually not that strong. Guowei's eyes flashed. The reason why the 87th Legion was defeated was because we didn't expect so many magical creatures to come out of the spatial rift. We weren't prepared. In fact, as long as the summoners and soldiers work together and use the right tactics, our weapons still have a huge advantage over those magical creatures. We can take advantage of them. We can take back Xinchuan City bit by bit. Guowei looked at Xiao Pingon and suddenly changed the topic. The Yunwan mountain base now lacks a leader who can truly unify all the forces. I think your identity is the most suitable. If you return to Yunwan Mountain, you can unify the power of the summoner and the army to form a force. As long as these two forces are united, the people will obey, and it will be possible to take back Xinchuan in the future. Xiao Pingan didn't comment. You think too highly of me. The current situation is very chaotic, but it's during times of chaos that the strong can take advantage of the situation. I estimate that the current anarchy in the Great Fire Country won't last for too long. In a year at most, or a few months at least, some places will restore basic order. The military of the Great Fire Country still has its basic strength. The Committee of Order is still there, and the summoners in the Great Fire Country haven't suffered many losses. Even if we lose now, I believe there will be a day when order is restored, and it will be a brand new order. Guowei emphasized the words brand new order. Smart people could already understand the meaning behind these words. Heroes created the times, and the times also created heroes. Many big families and famous people rose at this time. If the situation wasn't chaotic and the old order wasn't broken, the new order and new heroes would not appear. Advisor Guo's words were full of ambition. Perhaps he didn't want to be a small advisor all the time. After being silent for a short while, Xiao Pingan looked at the Xinchuan city not far away and suddenly nodded. I'll return to the Yunwan mountain base with you. You agree? Guowei became spirited. It's not that I agree, but we have to leave here. Xiao Pingan pointed at the Xinchuan city in the distance and said with a helpless and heavy tone, more magical creatures are coming out of the two space cracks. Tell everyone to prepare to evacuate at once. Guowei didn't have the ability to see from afar, but Xiao Pingan did. At this moment, the two space cracks in the Xinchuan city were filled with rolling black fog. Batches of magical fire spiders, magical liquid spiders, phantom monsters, demon spirits, and magical rats poured out of the two space cracks one after another. The two space cracks have been silent for so many days, so it shouldn't be a coincidence that they opened again today. The Special Logistics Department was too big of a target, and there were too many people. They wouldn't be able to hide for long before they were discovered. Last night, those magical creatures had suffered heavy losses. Now, the magical creatures pouring out of the space cracks looked incomparably manic, as if they were looking for revenge at any time. They had to evacuate at once. At this moment, in the Xinchuan city, after the battle last night, there should be very few people who hadn't escaped from the space cracks. A victory in the battle couldn't change the situation in Xinchuan. Looking at the magical creatures constantly pouring out of the space cracks, Xiao Pingan once again felt the urgency to improve his strength. This was just the beginning. Magical rats and spiders were very low-level magical creatures. God knows what else would come out of the space cracks, and how many would come out. An hour later, all the people who had just rested in the Special Logistics Department were in high spirits, and were ready to evacuate from the path in the wilderness. Xiao Pingan didn't leave anything else in the Special Logistics Department, except for a few weapons and supplies that the soldiers had in their hands. Xiao Pingan didn't leave anything else in his space teleportation warehouse. This time, it was Xiao Pingan who led a few summoners and a team of warriors to cover the rear. The journey went very smoothly, except for encountering 7 to 8 magical fire spiders and several dozen magical rats. The evacuation team didn't encounter any major difficulties. No one was killed on the way. Those magical fire spiders and magical rats were killed by Xiao Pingan alone, adding some new materials to the spatial warehouse. After 2 days, Xiao Pingan and Guowei finally led everyone back to the Yunwan mountain base. Chapter 124. Outside Yunwan mountain base, there were many mountain ridges. The only way to enter the base was a winding road built on the mountain wall. Below the road was a large river surging through the valley. On both sides of the road were cliffs. After walking along the mountain road for more than 10 kilometers, a huge suspension bridge spanned across the valley. Below the suspension bridge was a torrential river. The suspension bridge could be retracted. Once it was retracted, The demon rats and large spiders would not be able to cross it. On the opposite side of the suspension bridge was Yunwan Mountain. After entering Yunwan Mountain, they realized that it was a completely different world. In the middle of the mountains, there was a small basin and a sizable lake. The water and plants were abundant. Beside the lake, there was a small town with many farms around it. The ammunition depot of the 87th Legion was inside Cloud Bay Mountain. In order to resist the space invasion, the Great Fire Country had built a national defense project in the belly of the mountain many years ago. There was a munitions factory in the belly of the mountain, which was later changed into an ammunition depot. At this moment, there were more than 20,000 people gathered in Cloud Bay Mountain Base. Most of them were civilians who had fled here. People with guns could be seen everywhere. Tents were set up everywhere in the farms. The only entrance into the valley was blocked by several abandoned trucks and bulldozers. Steel plates were welded on those abandoned trucks and bulldozers. The steel plates were hung with sandbags and barbed wire. On the hillsides on both sides of the entrance, there were bunkers and fortifications. The only entrance was blocked by a bulldozer with thick steel plates welded on it. When people entered or exited, they had to activate the bulldozer to make way for the only entrance. The soldiers of the 87th Legion were guarding the entrance. There was also a group of guards and 2 summoners formed by the civilians. Xiao Pingan looked at the soldiers in military uniforms and the people in ordinary clothes holding guns at the entrance of the valley, guarding each side. The summoner was also here watching. The 3 sides were not unified. Xiao Pingan felt that the atmosphere in the valley was not so harmonious. Perhaps there would be situations where soldiers and civilians would be in love with each other during a disaster, but there was no such thing here. Many of the citizens who fled here are blaming the soldiers of the 87th Legion for not guarding the spatial rift in Xinchuan City properly, causing them to lose their homes and loved ones. The soldiers, on the other hand, feel wronged. Everyone fought with their lives on the line, but they weren't able to control the situation of the spatial invasion. A few officers wanted to take control of the farms here and implement military control and rationing, but they were resisted by the people who came here. These people took over the farms and wanted the army to open up the warehouses so that everyone could have weapons. Many officers didn't agree. This is the source of the conflict between the 2 sides. Guowei explained the situation in a few sentences. When the crisis came, everyone wanted to seek more protection and grab more resources in their hands. Thus, conflicts arose. Resources and power were limited. If one party wanted to seek protection, it might be an unstable factor and threat to the other party. They didn't fight, right? Xiao Pingan asked. Guowei smiled bitterly and shook his head. That's not the case. We're facing a great enemy. Everyone knows that if this place becomes chaotic, we'll all be finished. Xiao Pingan smiled. It's good that they didn't fight. What about the summoners here? They flatter both sides and don't dare to offend them. If there were no summoners, a few demon spirits would be enough to finish this place. The summoners here are still neutral, but what the summoners are pursuing might be different from the soldiers and the people. Xiao Pingan knew what the summoners were pursuing: power and realm pearls. In the summoners' eyes, demons were not only a threat, but they could also be the source of realm pearls. The summoners were not completely against them and dared to take risks. On the other hand, the people were pursuing stability and safety, while the soldiers were pursuing order. It was best to continue to implement military control and make everyone obediently listen to orders. The pursuits of the 3 parties were very different. It was only because of the dangers outside that the 3 parties were able to coexist peacefully in the Yunwan Mountain Base. The soldiers of the 87th Legion are stationed in the base in the belly of the mountain. They control the ammunition depot and the largest farm. The people who fled here live in the town and the farm. They're divided into many groups. The town belongs to the people. The summoners of the Demon Suppression Guard all lived in the barracks at the bottom of the mountain. Guowei pointed to several places in the valley. Each had their own territory. The arrival of Xiao Pingan and the others caused quite a commotion in the Yunwan Mountain Base. Along the way, they attracted the attention of many people. How's Xinchuan now? Are those demons still there? Has the 87th Legion fought back? Is there anyone left in Xinchuan? The people along the way directly asked loudly. Everyone, please calm down. Regarding this operation, the army will release a notice to inform everyone of the situation in Xinchuan City. Guo Wei, as the officer leading the team, said loudly. As an officer of the army, he definitely had to maintain the authority of the army. It was best to release the situation in Xinchuan City through a notice to prevent rumors from spreading and causing panic. There are so many demons in Xinchuan City. Back then, they had so many people and yet they couldn't control them. It's even more impossible for them to fight back now. I already said that we shouldn't go out. What if we attract those demons? Some people said worriedly. Don't be so sarcastic. Others are risking their lives. It's fine if you don't help, but are you afraid that others will attract the demons? Everyone hiding here is a dead end. You're still controlling the guns at this time. What's the point? You should immediately distribute the guns. It's a waste of resources to give guns to people who don't know how to use them. Besides, what if someone bad gets a gun? Have you forgotten about the woman who died in the lake a few days ago? The murderer hasn't been found yet. Xiao Pingan listened to the words of the people around him and found that the situation in the Yunwan mountain base was indeed a bit complicated. Some of the people here were more rational and could understand the position of the army, but some people were more impatient. Moreover, with so many people here, no one could guarantee that the more than 20,000 people here were all righteous and kind. In such an extreme environment, the evil in some people's hearts might be even more unscrupulous. Have you seen my son? He's 12 years old this year, and he's wearing blue clothes. This is his photo. His name is Zhou Hai. He's sensible and cute. A crazy woman with a foul smell ran over with a wrinkled photo of a child in her hand. She impatiently asked everyone who passed by her. Everyone was silent. Xiao Pingan also sighed helplessly. There were too many cases of relatives being separated. Unless God opened his eyes, there was no way to find them. Do you want to go to the belly of the mountain to take a look? Guo Wei asked Xiao Pingan. No need. Xiao Pingan shook his head. There were too many people in the army gathered here. A group of officers was in charge. If he went to the belly of the mountain, there would be more conflicts. Those officers in the small mountain would probably think that he was here to seize power. You want to go to the barracks? Xiao Pingan nodded. He had gone to the military camp as a gesture to tell those who were worried about him seizing power that he had come here as a summoner. It was better to be fawned upon by people on both sides than to be guarded against. There are still many empty rooms in the barracks. At a fork in the road, everyone parted ways. The summoners who came here with Xiao Pingan followed him to the barracks. The soldiers who escaped from Xinchuan City followed Xiao Pingan to the base in the belly of the mountain. There were also some ordinary citizens who went to the town. There was an organization in the town to settle the new refugees. The organization was spontaneously organized by the people here. The newcomers would be allocated a place to live and food when they reported. There would also be arranged some work, so there would be no chaos. Manzijin didn't follow Guo Wei to the belly of the mountain. Instead, she followed Xiao Pingan to the barracks. There were a lot of summoners in the barracks. There were more than 70 of them. There were some unfamiliar faces, but they had seen most of them before. They were members of the Izhou Demon Suppression Guard. Seeing Xiao Pingan and the others return, the summoners rushed out of the barracks to welcome the newcomers. At the same time, they were also concerned about the situation in Xinchuan. It was easy for Xiao Pingan to find an empty courtyard in the barracks and stay there. In fact, Xiao Pingan couldn't wait to go into seclusion. After checking his gains these days, he had obtained 2 brand new realm beads. Once the 2 realm beads fused, his body's combat strength would break through to the 2nd realm. Since the 1st realm was already so awesome, Xiao Pingan was full of expectations for the 2nd realm. Xiao Pingan, where is Xiao Pingan? Xiao Pingan had just returned to his room and was about to go into seclusion when a loud voice suddenly rang out from outside the courtyard. Xiao Pingan almost thought he had misheard because that voice belonged to Tu Palu. Xiao Pingan hurriedly rushed out of the room and saw Tu Palu, Fong Lingshan, and Li Yunzhou walking in from outside the barracks. This was a huge surprise. Why are you here? Xiao Pingon hurriedly walked over. Ha! We wanted to ask you that too. Tupola laughed. We just came back and heard that the 87th Legion's High Priest Xiao Pingon is here. I thought I heard wrong. Chapter 125. This is the situation in Xinchuan City. After that night's battle, a large number of monsters rushed out of the spatial cracks in Xinchuan City, and the situation didn't turn for the better. I returned here with Guowei and the others to see the situation first. The power of a single person is still too weak in the current situation and can't change the overall situation. Those monsters know that unity is strength and can move in groups. We humans naturally can't be inferior to those monsters. Xiao Pingon introduced his situation during this period of time. The place where the four of them were chatting was next to a stone table in the living quarters courtyard. There was a big tree next to the stone table, and the ground was covered in fallen leaves. It was already bleak, but the four of them were still chatting in full swing. After listening to Xiao Pingon, Tu Pelu, Li Yunzhou, and Feng Lingshan glanced at each other, their eyes full of amazement. They hadn't thought that in such a short time, Xiao Pingon would have experienced so much and changed so much Xiao Pingon. Not to mention anything else, just Xiao Pingon's ability to destroy the 3 monster nests in Xinchuan City was astonishing. The number of monsters Xiao Pingon had killed was probably unimaginable. And what was even more unexpected was that Xiao Pingon had already grasped the divine runes. You grasped the divine runes and opened a spatial warehouse in the secret mandala. Li Yunzhou's eyes widened as he looked at Xiao Pingon and stammered. You can also make runic bullets. Why are you so surprised? I thought you already knew. Looking at the faces of the 3, Xiao Pingon rubbed his face. I used the divine runes in the Gao family. Many people saw it. SH*T. We weren't there at the time, and the rumors outside were so mysterious. Who knows what secret method you used? Inquiring about other summoners' secret methods is a taboo among summoners. Secret mandala. Secret mandala. How can it be called a mandala if it's not a secret? How can we know if you don't tell us? Li Yunzhou shouted. One side didn't know what secret method the other side had used, while the other side thought that since they had used it, others should know. Both sides had such thoughts, and, in the end, they made a small mistake. You said that your spatial warehouse can store so many bombs and the corpses of those big spiders. The expression on Feng Lingshan's face was also a little strange. She looked at Xiao Pingon as if she was looking at a monster. The number of fuel-air explosives and thermobaric bombs that could completely destroy the 3 largest underground shelters in Xinchuan City was terrifying just thinking about it. It wasn't something that could be done with 8 or 10 bombs. Tupolu's large hand pinched his unshaven chin. He hesitated for a moment before saying, as far as I know, other summoners who have grasped the divine runes also have the ability to open a spatial warehouse in their secret mandala. If those summoners can summon a pharmacist, they can also refine pills in their secret mandala. It's just that I've never heard of anyone who could open up such a large spatial warehouse. This cough, it might be because the effects of fusing with the divine runic world bead are different. Your luck is too good. Even something as precious as the divine runic world bead was able to drop out of it. How come I never encountered such a good thing? Li Yunzhou sighed, full of remorse. What about you? How come you're here? We came here yesterday to see the situation in Xinchuan and see if we could contact the troops and summoners here. 5 days ago, we returned to Fragrant River City from the 1,000 Dragon Mountain Range with some summoners from the Demon Suppression Guard. Now, many summoners have gathered at Fragrant River City. Although the situation in Fragrant River City is chaotic and there are many demons, it isn't as bad as Xinchuan City. What about the 1,000 Dragon Mountain Range? Didn't you say that the situation with the space cracks in the 1,000 Dragon Mountain Range was very serious? How come you came back? Xiao Pingon curiously asked. The situation in the 1,000 Dragon Mountain Range is something you can never imagine. Tupolu's complexion was unprecedentedly serious. We saw with our own eyes that the permanent space cracks in the 1,000 Dragon Mountain Range were sealed. Sealed? What do you mean? Xiao Pingan asked, stunned. It's gone. It disappeared and returned to normal, Fong Lingshan said. This time, it was Xiao Pingan's turn to be surprised. Wasn't it a permanent space crack in the Thousand Dragon Mountain range? How did it disappear in such a short time? It was indeed a permanent space crack in the Thousand Dragon Mountain range, but it indeed disappeared. Many summoners in the Thousand Dragon Mountain range saw it with their own eyes. It disappeared bit by bit, right under our noses. If it wasn't for the disappearance of the space crack in the Thousand Dragon Mountain range, we couldn't have returned to Fragrant River City so quickly. Tupolu said in a low voice, You weren't there at that time. If you were, your jaw would also drop. What on earth happened at that time? Xiao Pingan asked in astonishment. We don't know what happened either. Many of us only saw a golden brilliance blossoming from the permanent space crack. In the brilliance, we saw the shadow of a big tree with luxuriant branches and leaves. We thought something strange would run out from it, so we were all on high alert. However, after a few minutes, the shadow of the big golden tree disappeared, and the permanent space crack disappeared as well. The space was restored. Tupolu said solemnly. I saw it too. That permanent space crack seemed to have been completely sealed by a powerful force. Fong Lingshan said on one side. When did this happen? It happened that night when the demonic spirit gushed out from the space crack. Tupolu shook his head. I didn't believe in ghosts before, but after seeing it with my own eyes that night, I started to doubt whether there are really gods protecting us in this world. Many summoners said that they saw a figure in the shadow of the big golden tree that night. I did see a vague figure in the shadow of the big tree. It's absolutely true. Fong Lingshan said seriously. Have the space cracks in other places also been sealed? Right now, communication has yet to be restored. We don't know if something like this has happened in other places, but I don't think it's a coincidence. It's just that we've encountered something like this. We came to Xinchuan this time to see how the situation is here. A permanent space crack had been sealed in such a short time. Xiao Pingan also didn't know the reason behind it, but he was sure that this was definitely exciting and great news. It could let many people who had been in despair see hope again. Has order been restored in Xianghe City? There are more than 300 summoners in the Demon Suppression Guard in Xianghe City. They have already completely controlled several towns around Xianghe City and gathered some scattered troops and escaped citizens. As long as the situation doesn't worsen, those demonic spirits and demonic creatures in Xianghe City will be eliminated in 2 months. Tupolu and the others didn't plan to leave Yunwan Mountain Base for the time being. With their arrival, Yunwan Mountain Base and Xianghe City had already contacted each other through the radio. Both sides could share information and coordinate some actions. According to the news from Xianghe City, once order was restored in Xianghe City, the summoners of the Demon Suppression Guard in Xianghe City would rush to Xinchuan's aid. Therefore, Yunwan Mountain Base wasn't completely isolated. And before the reinforcements arrived, the summoners and troops of Yunwan Mountain Base needed to hold on for a while. Speaking of holding on, just as Xiao Pingan and Tupolu were chatting, the alarm in the military camp suddenly rang. The surveillance drones in the base had discovered that many demonic creatures had suddenly surged into the road outside Yunwan Mountain. The entire base suddenly became tense. Tupolu and Li Yunzhou immediately stood up. Let's go take a look. Tupolu was eager to give it a try. There are more than 10 large spiders and hundreds of demonic rats. You guys go first, I'll come back later, Xiao Pingan said as he used his remote vision ability to take a look. The base could handle this demonic threat, so Xiao Pingan didn't plan to join the fun. As long as he was given some time, he would soon be able to advance to the second realm. Tupolu and the others thought that Xiao Pingan was tired from rushing for days and wanted a rest, so they didn't force him. After Tupolu and the others left, Xiao Pingan summoned the Black Dragon and got the Black Dragon and Manzagen to stand guard in the courtyard. He returned to his room and prepared to go into seclusion to fuse with a New World Pearl. Xiao Pingan moved his hand and took out a New World Pearl that was flashing with a layer of bronze brilliance from the space warehouse. There were only 2 words in the holy text inside the New World Pearl, Yang Sui. Chapter 126. Xiao Pingon opened his eyes and found himself in a workshop. Looking around, he saw a large amount of peacock stones and charcoal piled up in a yard. Not far away, heat waves were rolling in the underground kiln. A group of technicians were busy smelting the peacock stones on burning charcoal. The smelted copper liquid was flowing through the channels on the ground into the molds that had been fixed long ago. These molds were made of copper mirrors. Seeing the peacock stones and charcoal, Xiao Pingon calmed down. This was smelting copper with fire, a metallurgical method that appeared in the Shang dynasty of Huaxia. Previously, when he saw the 2 words, Yang Sui, he was not completely sure what the boundary pearl was used for, because there was a surname in ancient Huaxia who knew if the boundary pearl was someone's name. But when he saw the workshop here, Xiao Pingon was sure. Xiao Pingon looked at the clothes on his body and then looked at the clothes of the people around him. He made a rough judgment in his heart. The era he was in now should be Western Zhou. In the Zhouli, Qiuguan Siko, there was a record of Si Luo, the master of Fu Sui, taking fire from the sun. At this moment, he and a few people who looked like craftsmen lowered their heads and listened to an official-looking person's lecture. In a few days, it will be the Grand Chancellor's birthday. All the feudal lords and the Bailu have expressed that the Minister of Public Works ordered the Works Department to forge exquisite objects and present them to the Grand Chancellor. The Grand Chancellor likes exquisite objects the most. You are all craftsmen in the Works Department, so this task will fall on you. If you do a good job, the Minister of Public Works and I will reward you handsomely. If you don't, the official-looking person's face darkened. Don't blame me for being merciless. There was no prime minister in Western Zhou. The Grand Chancellor's position was equivalent to that of the prime minister in the future. The Minister of Public Works was also known as the Minister of Public Works in Western Zhou. The Minister of Public Works was in charge of the construction of civil engineering and water conservancy projects. This works department should be the state-run factory of Western Zhou. The official-looking person in front of him should be one of the subordinates in charge of this place. At that time, the division of official positions was not as detailed as it was in the future. The so-called subordinates were the assistants, subordinates, and so on. For example, the subordinates of Sikon would be assigned to manage the Bureau of Works that smelted copper. We can make some bronze mirrors and offer them to you, one of the craftsmen said. Copper mirror? That subordinate looked somewhat unhappy. Does Grand Chancellor lack a bronze mirror at home? Who knows how many feudal vassals and bailiwicks would give this item? Grand Chancellor always gives a bronze mirror to us subordinates. Could it be that you want Minister of Public Works to give the same thing to others? Since the bronze mirror couldn't do it, the other blacksmiths started to speak up one by one. Some of them wanted to send wine vessels, tableware, bronze lamps, bronze stoves, bronze pots, bronze sheep. These suggestions were all rejected by the subordinate official, saying that they were too ordinary. Sending these things did not show the Minister of Public Works' ability to manage hundreds of workers. Xiao Pingon heaved a sigh inside. Sure enough, gift-giving was a subject of great knowledge since ancient times. Can't you think of something delicate? It had better be something unique that Grand Chancellor has never seen before. Anyone who can think of it will be rewarded with 50 kilograms of coins and 10 slaves. That subordinate glanced over Xiao Pingon's and the other craftsmen's faces one by one. All the other craftsmen became silent and looked embarrassed. There's still a few months left. Take your time to think about it. Seeing that subordinate official leaving with a disappointed look, Xiao Pingon opened his mouth. I've thought of something unique. Perhaps I can present it to Grand Chancellor. That subordinate official became interested at once. Oh, what's that? I've thought of something that could make fire against the sun on a sunny day. Xiao Pingon said calmly. Wooden flask? That subordinate official's face turned gloomy at once. With a furious look, he said, Are you tired of living? How dare you joke with me at this moment? Wooden flask is the one that makes fire by drilling wood. What I'm talking about is not wooden flask, but golden flask. It doesn't need wood. Instead, it's made of gold and copper, like a bronze mirror. However, it's different from common bronze mirrors. After pointing the golden flask at the sunlight, it could gather the sunlight at one point and ignite the mugwort to make fire. That subordinate official was not completely stupid. He knew that light was hot, and the bronze mirror could reflect light. Hearing Xia Pinggan's explanation that the light in the bronze mirror could be gathered at one point, he immediately became spirited and became excited. You can really make this item. If you can really make it, it will be a great merit. Xia Pinggan's words made Xia Pinggan's heart tremble. I've never made it before. After thinking about it these days, I feel it might work. How did you come up with it? Last time, I saw a bronze mirror being dented by a heavy object in the warehouse. When I used the dented bronze mirror to calibrate the light, I found that the light it reflected was not as straight as before. I thought I might be able to make a special bronze mirror with this method and use it to make fire. That subordinate official thought for a while and found that it was indeed so. All the bronze mirrors produced here had to be polished carefully so as to not make the surface uneven. Once there were dents or bumps, it would not be able to reflect people. When it reflected light, the light would also be distorted. How long can you make it? Assign some people to me. I can make it in a few days, Xia Pinggan said straightforwardly. Fine. That subordinate official clapped his hands excitedly. I'll give you 1 month. Within this month, all the craftsmen and slave workers in the works department will be at your disposal. Yes, sir. With the help of craftsmen, it would be simple. Xia Pinggan had some craftsmen make some new molds. The new molds were like the bottom of a pot with a curved surface. After the molds were made, he directly poured some copper liquid into the molds using the same technique to make bronze mirrors. Soon, some strange bronze mirrors with concave surfaces were made. The bronze mirrors were also polished and polished. It only took a few days for them to be finished. When the sunsway was completely polished, that subordinate official also came in the afternoon of the second day. All the craftsmen and slave workers in the works department gathered in the open space outside the works department. They were all shocked and curious to see how that strange bronze mirror could make fire from the void. Xia Pinggan held the bronze mirror against the sunlight and searched for the focal point of the reflection. After that, he put a ball of moxa wool on the focal point of the reflection. Under the gaze of the public, that ball of moxa wool started to smoke in less than a minute. Closely after that, it started to burn. Godly object, it's really a godly object. Seeing this magical scene, everyone exclaimed. That subordinate official was so happy that he almost jumped up. In the past, no one had ever been able to make fire from light. However, this strange bronze mirror that Xia Pinggan had made could actually make fire from light. This was much simpler than drilling wood to make fire. It wasn't an exaggeration to call it a godly object. The process of making the sun sway was smooth and without any twists and turns. Xia Pinggan didn't know how this sun sway was given to Minister of Public Works and how it was given to Minister of the Imperial Family. The world formed by the realm pearl shattered again. This time, it increased by 15 points of godly power. Xia Pinggan's godly power limit broke through 420 points and became 425 points. The changes in his body were even greater. Xia Ping felt that his body was constantly being cleansed by the powerful energy pouring in from the void. Vaguely, his body seemed to be no longer completely sealed. Instead, a door had been opened, forming some kind of connection with the void of the universe outside his body. This feeling was very magical. In the secret mandala temple's caisson, there was an additional 15 points of godly power. And in the temple, there was an additional relief sculpture. That relief sculpture was the scene of Xia Pinggan inventing the sun sway to make fire. A ray of golden light shot from the sun to the sun sway, as if it was real. The yang and his symbol characters on the mountain of golden characters were lit up and protruded from the mountain. In the room, Xia Pinggan opened his eyes and looked at the time. He found that only slightly more than an hour had passed. He stood up and stretched his arms and legs. He felt that his body had entered a whole new realm. It was more than twice as strong as before. When he breathed, his body cells seemed to be able to freely breathe in and out a trace of energy from the outside world. Xiao Pingon punched out, and the air in the room exploded. It was like using a popcorn machine to explode a cannon. A figure flashed outside the room. Manzajan had already rushed outside. "I'm fine." Xiao Pingon opened his mouth and said. Hearing Xiao Pingon's words, Manzajan retreated. Xiao Pingon used his remote vision ability to look outside. Damn, more than an hour had passed, and those demon rats and spiders were still more than 20 kilometers away from the Yunwan mountain base. Those demon beasts were walking slowly on the road. It seemed that they didn't have a specific target and were just following the road to investigate. On the other hand, the base was already 5 kilometers away from the entrance. Both sides had not started fighting yet. Xiao Pingon pursed his lips. There was still plenty of time, so he was not in a hurry. Xiao Pingon took out the second realm pearl he had obtained. That realm pearl only had 4 godly words on it. Bo, E for the well. Dripping a drop of blood, Xiao Pingon's body was quickly enveloped by a ball of light. The previous realm pearl was the invention of Yang Sui. This realm pearl was used to dig a well. Legend had it that Bo E was the first person in China to use underground water. He was the first person to dig a well to obtain water. This realm bead was quite simple for Xiao Pingon. It was completely a giveaway question. However, Bo Yi's other achievement was even more eye-catching. After assisting Yi the Great in controlling the flood, Bo Yi created the classic of mountains and seas. Not only was Bo Yi the first person to create a well, he might also be the first person in China to complete a round-the-world journey. The classic of mountains and seas was actually Bo Yi's round-the-world journey notes. The second realm pearl merged even faster. In less than 10 minutes, Xiao Pingon opened his eyes again. The godly power in his temple's caisson increased by 10 points. The upper limit was 435 points. Xiao Pingon used his remote vision ability to look. Those demons had not arrived yet. Chapter 127. When Xiao Pingon and Manzajan brought the black dragon to the valley entrance of the Cloud Bay mountain base, the demon fire spiders and demon rats were still more than 10 kilometers away. Almost all the summoners in the military camp had arrived. There were more than 70 of them, both male and female. To the summoners, the demons that came here along the road might have boundary pearls. At this moment, the Cloud Bay mountain base had the upper hand. They had the advantage in numbers. If they killed those demons, the boundary pearls might be easy to obtain. Hence, no one wanted to miss this opportunity. In addition to the summoners, there were many people lying in ambush on the hillsides on both sides of the valley entrance. There were more than 100 soldiers with rocket launchers. There were also many snipers and machine gunners. It was as if the valley was facing a formidable enemy. Some civilians with weapons had also arrived. They were lying in ambush at the valley entrance, hiding behind the abandoned trucks and bulldozers. They were all aiming at the intersection outside the valley. The civilians were armed with rifles, shotguns, and assault rifles. There were also 2 squad machine guns and grenade launchers. These weapons could deal with the demon rats, but they were basically useless against the demon fire spiders and demon liquid spiders. The 3 forces of the Cloud Bay mountain base were gathered here. It was almost clear at a glance. At the place where the summoners were, there were a few soldiers in military uniforms and a few people in ordinary clothes. Guowei was also there. Before Xiao Pingon reached there, he heard a dispute from afar. "Colonel Wang Cheng, you have seen the current situation. The Yunwan mountain base is not 100% safe. We have too few weapons in our hands. We seriously lack powerful weapons such as rocket launchers and anti-tank missiles. We can't protect ourselves at all. There is an ammunition depot in the valley. Why don't you take out the weapons in the depot and distribute them to everyone? Do you really want to watch us die?" This voice was full of dissatisfaction. "It is the duty of us soldiers to protect our country. Before you die, we will die first. Those heavy weapons have not undergone strict training. It is very difficult for ordinary people to master them. Furthermore, they are very dangerous. I still stand by my words. We are preparing to expand a militia of the Cloud Bay mountain base. If you want to use these heavy weapons, You have to join the militia and accept our training and command. This voice was stiff and sounded like a soldier. Summer Priest is here. Someone in the crowd noticed Xia Pingon. Therefore, everybody turned their eyes towards him. Xia Pingon walked towards there frankly. At the sight of Xia Pingon, those military officers hurriedly gave a military salute to Xia Pingon. Those who were quarreling with those military officers also closed their mouths and saluted Xia Pingon. We were told that you're here. We were going to pay you a visit. Enemy. A square-faced military officer told Ping. From his voice. Ping. Given his voice, he was... This is Colonel Wang Chung. Guowei introduced them to Xia Pingon. This is Colonel Lin Tianyu. This is Colonel Zhang Jiaming. This is Lieutenant Colonel Zhu Ziqing. This is Lieutenant Colonel Fang Yutong. This is Major Su Liming. This is Major Yu Dingong. Xia Pingon opened his mouth. I've met Colonel Yu in the headquarters of the Corps before. Major Yu Dingong is the regiment commander of the commando group under the direct command of the headquarters. Xia Pingon looked around. It's my pleasure to see you all here. Before coming here, Xia Pingon had heard Guowei mention the names of these military officers. They were all military officers of the 87th Legion. All of them were arrogant and valiant. Because they didn't belong to each other, these military officers formed a military leadership committee and led those soldiers in the Cloud Bay Mountain base. They barely managed to unite the troops that had escaped here. A bunch of defeated soldiers. I really don't have the face to be complacent here. Yu Dingong forced a smile. Thank you, Summer Priest, for seeing off my brothers last time. Given the current situation, I know that all the brothers of the 87th Legion have tried their best. Those who survived fought bloody battles with those monsters. There are no deserters in the 87th Legion. Even Chairman Tang sacrificed himself for the country. Don't blame yourselves, Xia Pingon said loudly. Since we've survived, we have to continue to fight and avenge our brothers. One day, we have to take back Xinchuan. These words wouldn't have much effect on others, but coming from the mouth of Xia Pingon, the high priest of the Legion, it greatly boosted the morale of all the soldiers at the scene and made all the soldiers feel greatly comforted. Take back Xinchuan, we also want to. As the citizens of Xinchuan, we also escaped here after surviving a disaster. Now, we can't even protect ourselves. We live in fear every day and urgently need weapons. Priest Xia, can you say something fair for us common people and let the several officers here distribute the things in the armory to everyone so that we common people can have some strength to protect ourselves? A thin and balding middle-aged man wearing glasses standing next to him suddenly said. Judging from his voice, this man was the one who had quarreled with Colonel Wang Chung just now. Xia Pingon looked at that man. That man looked helpless and cautious. When he spoke, he sounded pitiful. However, Xia Pingon felt that the eyes behind that man's glasses revealed an indescribable cunning and scheming. Who is this? I'm the captain of the Yunwan Mountain Base's citizen guards, Pan Shirlu. That man bowed slightly in a respectful manner, but the eyes behind his glasses flashed. Yunwan Mountain Base's citizen guards? Xia Pingon understood. He glanced at Xia Pingon, and Guowei nodded slightly at Xia Pingon. Guowei had mentioned this organization before. It was one of the larger civilian armed forces in Yunwan Mountain Base. There were about 2,000 people in it. This guard team was self-proclaimed and not officially formed. This Pan Shirlu wasn't a kind person. He used the flag of the citizen guards to recruit people from the citizens and expand the size of his organization. At the same time, he used the flag of citizen self-defense to represent the citizens here to ask for guns and cannons from the army. He even brought people to occupy the largest farm in Yunwan Mountain Base and many buildings in the town and formed a picket team. In front of the citizens, he considered himself the protector of the citizens and intervened in all kinds of things. In front of the army, he considered himself the representative of the citizens and used the citizens to negotiate with the army at any time to put pressure on the army. I actually have a lot of heavy weapons here. Rocket launchers, anti-tank cannons, and individual fuel air explosives. I have everything, Xia Pingon said to Pan Shirlu with a smile. If you want them, you can come and find me. Pan Shirlu was overjoyed. He glanced at the officers and suppressed his excitement. He stretched out his hands and held Xia Pingan's hands. This, Summer Priest, is willing to give us those weapons. That's great. On behalf of the 20,000 citizens of Yunwan Mountain Base, I would like to thank Summer Priest for his support. By the way, when can you give us the weapons? I can give them to you now, Xiao Pingan said. That's great. I'll have to trouble Captain Pan to find those citizens who need heavy weapons. I can give them to them now. Ahem, Summer Priest can give the weapons to our guards. We're all citizens and need weapons too. That's good. Xiao Pingan waved his hand, and hundreds of heavy equipment and ammunition, such as rocket launchers and individual cloud blasters, appeared in front of everyone. Looking at those unopened weapons and equipment, Pan Shirlu was shocked by Xiao Pingan's ability. His eyes lit up, and he licked his lips. He wanted to call someone to move those things away. I'll say this first. Since Captain Pan said that the purpose of taking these weapons is to protect the citizens of Yunwan Mountain Base, it just so happens that we're facing a great enemy now. Captain Pan, since you've taken my weapons, you should set an example and kill those monsters with me. Xiao Pingan's voice was so loud that everyone around heard him. He stretched out his hand and patted Pan Shirlu's shoulder. There are too few people as brave as Captain Pan. It just so happens that I have a plan here. I'll lead you to take the initiative to attack. We don't have to wait for those monsters to come to the entrance of the valley. We'll ambush those monsters halfway. With the heavy equipment I provided, our chances of success will be higher. We don't have to wait for those monsters to come here to threaten the citizens. We can kill those monsters. What does Captain Pan think? Pan Shirlu's smile and the hidden excitement on his face froze at once. However, he quickly forced a smile and said, if we get these weapons, we might need some time to train them before we can use them. Oh, I almost forgot about that. Xiao Pingan patted his forehead. These heavy weapons indeed need some training. Do you know how to shoot? I don't think you need any training, right? Pan Shirlu glanced at the surrounding people who were staring at him and the assault rifle hanging on his shoulder. He could only force a smile while gritting his teeth. I do know how to shoot. For the safety of tens of thousands of citizens in Yunwan Mountain Base, do you dare to take the risk and go there with me? I want to ambush those monsters. I need an assistant who knows how to use a gun. As long as Captain Pan dares to go there with me and risk your lives for the safety of tens of thousands of citizens in Yunwan Mountain Base, I will gift these heavy weapons to your escort team. Only the two of us. Yes, only the two of us. 2 of us is enough. I need an assistant who knows how to shoot to attract the attention of those demon rats, Xiao Pingan said with a smile. However, his smile gradually turned cold while his eyes turned sharp. Why do you look so bad, Captain Pan? Didn't you say that you need weapons to protect the citizens? Why do you hesitate when these weapons are placed in front of you while the enemy is coming? You only need to take a risk to get them. Captain Pan, you said that you could represent the citizens, but you don't dare to take risks for the safety of tens of thousands of citizens in Yunwan Mountain Base? Chapter 128. The surroundings instantly became quiet. Pan Shirlu broke out in cold sweat. He looked around and realized that the officers and warriors were looking at him coldly. Even the guards he brought along were looking at him with a different gaze. The summoners were also looking at him with mocking gazes. Xiao Pingan's voice was very loud. Everyone at the entrance of the valley heard him. When Xiao Pingan took out those weapons, Pan Shirlu was secretly happy. He thought he had trapped Xiao Pingan. Who would have thought that Xiao Pingan would turn around and dig a hole for him to jump into? Looking at Xiao Pingan's cold gaze, Pan Shirlu gritted his teeth and purposely sighed. The Summer Priest and the officers of the 87th Legion are indeed on the same side. I just met the Summer Priest. I don't know how I've offended you. Why do you have to force me into a corner? How did I force you into a corner? Xiao Pingan looked calmly at the man, whose expression changed. All the warriors of the 87th Legion can go to the battlefield and die, but you're still worried that they can't protect you. There are so many summoners here, whose life isn't more valuable than yours. Which one of them hasn't been to the battlefield? You keep saying that you're doing this for the guards, for the tens of thousands of people in Cloud Bay Mountain Base. Can't you go to the battlefield and fight for them? Is your life more valuable than everyone else's? Since you don't want to go to the battlefield, why are you trying so hard to hold on to so many weapons? Do you want to rebel in this small Cloud Bay Mountain Base? If this isn't coercion, then what is? If you want my life, just say it. Why do you have to cover it up with some magic beasts? Pan Shirlu threw caution to the wind and said loudly to the guards he brought along, "Think about it. How many magic beasts did the drones discover? There were more than 10 magic fire spiders and magic liquid spiders and hundreds of magic rats." Xiao Pingon said that he only needs the two of us to stop those magic beasts. How is that possible? He just wants to bring me to my death. How can the two of us stop so many magic beasts? If I'm killed by the magic beasts, he's a summoner, so he naturally has a way to escape. Pan Shirlu became more and more agitated as he spoke. He pointed at Xiao Pingon and said, "This person is the most hypocritical and vicious. Don't believe his nonsense. He's here to disintegrate our guards and set me up." Hearing Pan Shirlu's words, the guards looked at each other one by one. Many of them looked doubtful and wavered. It's true that one or two people are enough to deal with those magic beasts. A villain sees everyone as a villain. Don't think that others are as dirty as you. If I want your life, why do I have to go through so much trouble? Xiao Pingon said, "Haha, one or two people. Are you kidding me?" Pan Shirlu sneered. He had seen the power of those magic beasts, especially those magic fire spiders and magic liquid spiders. Those things could overturn tanks and armored vehicles. Even a summoner would have a hard time dealing with one. How could so many magic beasts be dealt with by one or two people? I admit that I don't have the ability to deal with those magic beasts. Even if I know how to use a gun, I can barely deal with a magic rat. That's why I want to arm myself with powerful weapons. What's wrong with arming the guards? You said that one or two people are enough to deal with those magic beasts. Other than me, do you think you have the ability to deal with the rest of the magic beasts alone? Aren't you bringing me there to kill me with a borrowed knife? If you can kill those magic beasts alone, why don't I give you my life? Xiao Pingon squinted at Pan Shirlu and asked calmly, "You said that as long as I can kill those magic beasts alone, you'll give me your life?" Pan Shirlu was certain that Xiao Pingon couldn't kill those magic beasts alone. He said loudly, "That's right. As long as you have the guts and the ability to prove that I'm framing you, you could take my life. If you don't have the ability and want to trick me into going against those magic beasts with you, what is it if you don't want to kill the guards with a borrowed knife? Even if you're the priest of the 87th Legion, you still have to answer to the tens of thousands of people in this base and the guards. Otherwise, we won't agree to it. Don't you agree?" Even at this moment, Pan Shirlu still didn't forget to instigate the people around him. He even wanted to use words to checkmate Xiao Pingon and put Xiao Pingon in a dilemma. All right, everyone heard what he said. He said himself that if I can kill those magic beasts alone, his life will be mine. Today, I'll make a bet with you. I'll kill those magic beasts alone. If I can't come back, or if I don't have the ability to kill those magic beasts alone, I'll use my life to answer to the tens of thousands of people and the guards in this base. If I can kill those magic beasts alone and come back, your life will be mine." Pan Shirlu smiled sinisterly and looked at Xiao Pingon fearlessly. A man always keeps his word. Let's make a bet. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? I'll wait for you here. But don't come back and say that you've killed those magic beasts. There's a drone here. The drone will send the video over at any time. If I and the people here don't see how you killed those magic beasts, you'll have to answer to me and the people in this base with your life. Pan Shirlu's last sentence was full of viciousness. All right, it's settled then. I'll let you see it with your own eyes, Xiao Pingon said calmly. Hearing Xiao Pingon's words, everyone in the surroundings stared at him. Those military officers exchanged glances with each other with a worried look. Those summoners also exchanged glances with each other as they felt it was unbelievable. If there were only those demon rats instead of those huge spiders, they felt that Xiao Pingon might be able to kill those demon rats by summoning a group of slave soldiers and rune bullets. However, Those huge spiders were not easy to deal with. It would be great if Xia Pingon could kill one or two huge spiders alone, but there were so many of them. Brat, how could you agree to such a bet? He's provoking you. How could you deal with so many demon fire spiders alone? Tupolu walked towards Pan Shirlu with a frown as he glared at Pan Shirlu with a murderous look, which scared Pan Shirlu so much that he moved 2 steps back. Tupolu didn't hesitate to say what many people were thinking. Old Tu, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Xia Pingon said frankly. If you're still worried, lend me your saber. Tupolu's saber was on his back. It was inserted into the scabbard like a small door plank. No matter where he went, Tupolu would carry it with him and treat it as a treasure. Tupolu's saber was a celestial device. It was said that Tupolu had spent a lot of effort and almost went bankrupt in exchange for it. Hearing that Xia Pingon wanted his huge saber, Tupolu instantly drew out his huge saber from his back and gave it to Xia Pingon, saying, "Here you go. This huge saber is a bit heavy. Can you get used to it?" "No problem." Xia Pingon nodded. "This is not a joke. There are so many demon beasts." Li Yinzhou also walked over and said worriedly, "Don't worry." Xia Pingon smiled and glanced at Pan Shirlu. Pan Shirlu was secretly sizing him up with a sinister look in his eyes. This Pan Shirlu was indeed not a good person. Just now, Xia Pingon was just testing him. If he really dared to disregard his own life and go out with him to fight against those demon beasts for the sake of the people in the base, Xia Pingon would look at him in a new light. The heavy weapons that Xia Pingon took out could be given to him just like that. It was not a big deal to increase the strength of the guards here. However, Pan Shirlu revealed his true colors the moment he heard about the risk. He was greedy for life and afraid of death. This kind of person was the best at scheming. He had a glib tongue. He spoke of benevolence, righteousness, morality, and reason. On the surface, he appeared to be awe-inspiring, but inside, he was absolutely a thief and a prostitute. Such a person could only let others die for him, while he reaped the benefits and took all the credit for himself. What was he thinking when he took the weapons, but didn't risk his life to fight against the demon beasts? He just wanted to take advantage of the chaos to seize power and increase the weight in his hands, paving the way for his tyrannical behavior in the future. Such a trash would only be a scourge if he stayed here. Sooner or later, he would cause trouble. Today, I'll start with you. Xia Pingon said to himself in his heart. Speaking of sabers, Tupolu's huge saber was indeed heavy, but in Xia Pingon's hands, it was extremely easy. It was only now that Xia Pingon seriously sized up the magical weapon in Tupolu's hands. In the past, Xia Pingon felt that Tupolu's huge saber was like a guillotine. It was wide and thick, with a curved tip and an axe-like head. There were also thick, serrated patterns on the back of the saber, which seemed somewhat familiar. Now that he held the huge saber in his hands, Xia Pingon seriously sized it up twice. Only then did he realize that the appearance of this huge saber suddenly matched the appearance of an item in Xia Pingon's memory. The appearance of this huge saber was exactly the same as the majestic horse-headed saber unearthed from the Shang Dynasty tomb in Shingan Oceania in Jiangxi that Xia Pingon remembered. That Shang Dynasty tomb in Shingan Oceania in Jiangxi was a huge tomb. The excavation of that huge tomb directly rewrote the history of Jiangnan civilization. Many important artifacts of the Shang Dynasty that shocked the archaeology community were unearthed from that huge tomb, and that horse-headed saber was one of them. However, the horse-headed saber unearthed from that huge tomb was made of bronze, while this huge saber in front of him looked like an enlarged version of that horse-headed saber. The handle and decoration were made of alloy steel, and the appearance was slightly different. That was why Xia Pingon had never thought of it before. Why were all these magical weapons unearthed from the tombs in his memory? It seemed like he really had to find an opportunity to obtain a treasure realm pearl to study it. Those monsters are less than 5 kilometers away from here. Guowei walked over and reminded Xia Pingon. "All right, I got it. Tell the warriors of the 87th Legion not to make a move later. Just watch." Hearing Xia Pingon's words, Guowei looked at the road outside the valley entrance. He seemed to have understood something and nodded lightly. After only 10 minutes, the huge bodies of the demonic fire spiders appeared on the road, more than 2 kilometers away from the valley like tanks. Seeing the monsters appear, Xiao Pingon didn't say anything else. He held the huge saber in his hand and charged toward the monsters under everyone's watchful eyes. Chapter 129. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Xiao Pingon, who was holding the broadsword, ran faster and faster. His whole body was like an arrow that was shot out, rushing toward those monsters that were swarming over. Xiao Pingon only injected a bit of divine power into the big saber in his hand, and he felt that the big saber seemed to be activated by his divine power. It woke up like a living creature. A bit of divine power could activate the big saber for 2 hours. The broadsword seemed to have fused with his arm, giving him a feeling of ease. He could even feel the blade of the broadsword cutting through the air as he ran. As a magic weapon, the saber had 2 effects. In addition to being sharp, the wounds caused by the saber would be very difficult to heal. Xiao Pingon, who had just advanced to Yuan realm, had long wanted to try fighting those spiders with his magic weapon. When he was at the first Yuan realm, Xiao Pingon actually had the ability to rely on his physical fitness to fight against those large spiders. However, at that time, Xiao Pingon didn't have any magic tools, and ordinary weapons couldn't break through the thick defenses of those large spiders, so he couldn't try. Today, he just wanted to try it. If he could fight those spiders with his magic weapon in the future, he would be able to do whatever he wanted. Seeing Xiao Pingon dashing towards him, more than 10 demon rats rushed towards him aggressively. At first glance, they did not look like demon rats, but more like lions or tigers. Xiao Pingon used Fierce Tiger to sense a mountain. The saber light roared like a tiger. Like a shadow, it flitted past the dozen demon rats. As soon as those demon rats landed on the ground, their heads and bodies were separated from their bodies, causing the ground to be covered with blood. The sharpness of the saber was completely out of Xiao Pingon's expectation. When he held the saber in his hand, he felt that the saber was not cutting through bones and flesh, but pieces of mud. The sharp blade of the saber cut through those demon rats without any hindrance. Several strands of burning spider silk flew towards him. Xiao Pingon flipped the saber in his hand and used Help the Tiger. The saber cut through the burning spider silk, breaking it into several pieces. Xiao Pingon guided the threads to those demon rats that were rushing towards him, entangling them and burning them fiercely. The demon rats screamed miserably as if they had been hit by a fireball. In the blink of an eye, they turned into several piles of ashes on the ground. A demon fire spider had rushed in front of Xiao Pingon and tried to clamp down on Xiao Pingon's body with its 2 huge pincers. Xiao Pingon leaped up and slashed out with a saber. With only one slash, the extremely hard shell of the demon fire spider was easily cut open by the celestial saber. Under the control of Xiao Pingon's strength, the celestial saber went straight through like a hot knife through butter. With a clatter, the head of the demon fire spider was cut off and fell to the ground. After having its head cut off by Xiao Pingon, the demon fire spider, which had been majestic just a moment ago, suddenly lay motionless, and the flames on its body were extinguished in an instant. Xiao Pingon's spirit was greatly lifted after his successful attack. With the strength of the second realm and the celestial saber, it was really easy to cut open the hard shell of the demon fire spider. In the next second, Xiao Pingon roared and dodged several strands of burning spider silk. He leaped up and chopped off the legs of a demon fire spider with one slash. The demon fire spider immediately fell to the ground. With another slash, its body was directly cut in half by Xiao Pingon's saber. Xiao Pingon rushed directly into the group of spiders and rats. His saber light was like lightning. In the time it took for a dragon to soar and a tiger to leap, it chopped down one monster after another. The people at the entrance of the valley were dumbfounded. Everyone thought that after approaching the demons, Xiao Pingon would use spells to assist and participate in the battle. Who would have thought that with just a celestial saber in hand, Xiao Pingon could easily break through the defenses of those terrifying demons? Xiao Pingon did not feel that his movements were very fast, but in the eyes of the onlookers, Xiao Pingon's movements were too fast and too terrifying. His body moved several meters away, and he could easily leap onto the bodies of those large spiders. The attacks of those large spiders and demon rats were somewhat clumsy and slow in front of Xiao Pingon. They were always easily dodged by him. The saber in Xiao Pingon's hand was like a body disintegrator. As long as it touched those demons, their bodies would instantly disintegrate and blood would splatter all over the ground. Even those large spiders' hardest and most powerful pincers, which could be used for close-range attacks, were cut off by Xiao Pingon's saber. Whether it was the demon rats or the large spiders, Xiao Pingon killed them all with one slash. Too powerful. Tupolu watched Xiao Pingon display his invincible might and kill the large spiders and demon rats one by one with his saber. He suddenly thought of something and could not help but exclaim in shock, That's the second Yuan realm. Tupolu liked to use his saber in close combat with demons very much. Moreover, his body had been strengthened by the Realm Pearl, and he had already advanced to the first Yuan realm some time ago. His fighting strength was much stronger than when he was at the Shangha Committee of Order. It was because of his rich experience that he could see at a glance how abnormal and powerful Xiao Pingon's fighting style was. It was definitely not something a first Yuan realm summoner could achieve. Even some second Yuan realm summoners might not be as nimble as Xiao Pingon. The power of his beloved celestial saber in Xiao Pingon's hands was too amazing. What? You said Xiao Pingon has already reached the second Yuan realm? So fast? Li Yinzhou was shocked. During this period of time, he had also fused with 2 realm pearls, and his physical fitness was about to break through to the first Yuan realm. He did not expect Xiao Pingon to leave him behind and actually reach the second Yuan realm. This was too abnormal. Could it be that Xiao Pingon had never failed to fuse with a realm pearl? Pan Shuliu's face grew paler and paler as he watched Xiao Pingon display his invincible might and really kill those demons alone. His body even started to tremble. While the surrounding people were watching the battle in the distance, Pan Shuliu swallowed a mouthful of saliva and unconsciously wanted to slip away from the crowd. The bet is not over yet. Where are you going? Pan Shuliu suddenly felt something tighten around his neck. Manzijin had silently appeared beside him and pinched his neck. Not only that, but a large black dog had also run over at some point and bit his trousers. It growled softly, making it difficult for him to pull his leg away. In less than 5 minutes, Xiao Pingon and his saber had wiped out all the demons at the entrance of the valley. Xiao Pingon unscrupulously put the corpses of the demons into his spatial storage and walked back with his magic weapon saber. Long live! Long live! The soldiers of the 87th Legion at the entrance of the valley were the first to cheer. Under everyone's gaze, Xiao Pingon came to Pan Shuliu's side. Pan Shuliu's face was as white as paper. His forehead was covered in cold sweat, and his body was trembling. He forced a smile that was uglier than crying. I was just joking with Summer Priest. You are the captain of the guards. You should know that there is no joking in the military. Your life is mine. Pan Shuliu wanted to say something. With a slash of Xiao Pingon's blade, Pan Shuliu's head rolled off and fell to the ground. His mouth was still slightly open. A few seconds later, Pan Shuliu's body shook a few times and fell to the ground, causing a pile of dust to rise. The surroundings were silent. No one thought that Xiao Pingon would really dare to behead the captain of the escort team in public. The members of the escort team looked at Pan Shuliu's head on the ground and were at a loss of what to do. Pan Shuliu was their captain, but this time, Pan Shuliu was gambling with his life with Xiao Pingon. It was definitely illegal for Xiao Pingon to kill people here, but who could do anything about it? Moreover, the things that Pan Shuliu had done before were really unbearable. Other than Pan Shuliu, there were also a few leaders of the civilian armed forces here. They looked at Pan Shuliu's body, and their faces were a little pale. I have a lot of heavy weapons here. If anyone wants a heavy weapon, feel free to come find me. I welcome anyone. However, if you want a heavy weapon, You have to fight for your life on the battlefield. You have to be brave enough to charge to the front lines. Those big guys are not for people who can't fight on the battlefield to hide behind the soldiers of the 87th Legion to satisfy their own selfish desires, Xiao Pingon said firmly. Chapter 130. More than 10 days later, in the valley over 70 kilometers away from the Cloud Bay Mountain base, when the army of over 20 phantom demon spirits, over 400 demon rats, and over 80 huge spiders entered the valley from the east, the people in the valley had already been lying in ambush for over 2 hours. When the last demon fire spider wobbled out of the bushes outside the valley and entered the encirclement, a wave of icicles suddenly flew out from the cliff on the side like arrows and directly penetrated through a group of demon rats in front. The battle started in a split second. The first wave of rockets that flew from both sides of the cliff numbered more than 100. At the same time, over 10 rune sniper bullets were shot out. The rune sniper bullets hit their targets first and penetrated through the bodies of those phantom demon spirits. With a shriek, those phantom demon spirits directly burned and turned into ashes. At this moment, those rockets also arrived. The entire valley was like a string of firecrackers lit by rockets. 1/3 of the first wave of rockets hit their targets, directly killing over 30 huge spiders. In the boom of the sniper rifles, the second wave of rune bullets arrived. More than half of those fleeing demon spirits were killed in an instant. Some demon spirits flew towards the place where the bullets came from. However, what greeted them was the summoner's fireball. A single fuel-air explosive bomb flew over. With a boom, it directly blew up more than 10 demon rats that were squeezed in a narrow area into pieces. 7 or 8 large spiders nearby were also affected. They were all sent flying to the ground by the shockwave of the fuel-air explosive bomb, with their legs facing the sky. The power of the fuel-air bomb was too terrifying. Each one of them was like planting a small mushroom. F*CK. Save it, save it. Don't waste it. These are all medicinal pills. Tupola shouted with heartache. However, he was the first one to jump off the cliff that was over 10 m high. Holding the huge saber in his hand, he pounced on a demon liquid spider closest to him like a hungry wolf. Sensing the threat, that demon liquid spider turned around and spat out corrosive spider silk towards Tupolu. Tupolu already had a way to deal with this kind of spider silk. After he shouted the word fire, 2 scorching fireballs flew out. The first fireball burned the spider's sticky silk into ashes, completing the collision. The second fireball fell on the spider's head, causing it to explode with scorching flames. Although the fireball skill couldn't kill the demonic liquid spider, the fireball skill and high temperature that fell on the head of the demonic liquid spider completed the important task of disturbing it in a split second. When the demonic liquid spider shook its head and retreated, Tupolu had already flown onto the body of the demonic liquid spider in an awe-inspiring manner. He roared, "Go to hell," as he chopped the demonic liquid spider's slender waist with his huge saber. The magic saber in his hand slashed open that demon liquid spider's body and split it into 2 from the waist. That demon liquid spider didn't die immediately and was still struggling. Tupola leaped up. The next second, he stabbed the saber in his hand into that demon liquid spider's head. With a twist of the saber's handle, that demon liquid spider stopped moving. Tupolu laughed heartily. He jumped down from the demon liquid spider's body and brandished his saber, cutting another 3 demon rats in 2. Almost at the same time, the summoners lying in ambush in the valley pounced on those big spiders like ferocious tigers let out of their cages. Li Yinzhou waved his hands, and a huge water ball flew out from his hands, directly hitting a devil fire spider and enveloping it. Demon fire spiders were most afraid of water. Once that water ball came into contact with that demon fire spider's body, it was like a bucket of cold water being splashed on a red-hot soldering iron. That demon fire spider screamed miserably, steam rising from its body as if it had been tortured long ago. Without waiting for the magic fire spider to retreat, a summoner rushed over. With a wave of his hand, A yellow light rose from the ground of the valley. With a prison circle, more than 10 large spiders were trapped in place, unable to escape for the time being. The first water ball was quickly dried up. Li Yinzhou shot another water ball and continued to use it to refine that demon fire spider that couldn't run anymore. This time, just as the water ball was about to be used, a fat summoner rushed over and shouted, "Ice storm!" A condensed spell was instantly released. Under the effect of the ice storm, the water ball turned into ice. The water on those demon fire spiders that were surrounded by the water ball also turned into ice, causing their damage to double. Fong Lingshan, who was wearing a black combat uniform, was like a dancing ghost on the battlefield. She leaped about in the valley, and the spells she had prepared beforehand were also being used in coordination with her movements. Fong Lingshan's spell was a water-shaped protective cover. The targets of this protective cover were those frozen demon fire spiders. The flames on the demon fire spiders turned the ice into water, which then turned the water into steam. But this time, the steam didn't disperse, but was bound by the water shield around the demon fire spiders. Water that didn't disperse would always be water. No matter how hot the flames were, they couldn't make water disappear. Water would only turn into steam, and the highest temperature of steam was 100 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, no matter how much heat was absorbed, the water wouldn't continue to rise. For those demon fire spiders, being attacked by the spells of a group of summoners was like being continuously tortured by water. Icicles, earth walls, flames, water balls, water shields, slave soldiers, ferocious tigers, all kinds of summoning spells and creatures flashed in the valley. The summoners that rushed out from both sides of the valley displayed their abilities and cooperated with each other, grasping the initiative of the entire battlefield from the start. The demonic spirits, who had been invincible in Xinchuan City and had almost destroyed the entire 87th Legion, were now nothing but weaklings. Not to mention the spells of the summoners. Even the runic bullets of the snipers could kill them. A group of slave soldiers rushed out from both sides to clean up the remaining demon rats. The gunshots in the valley didn't stop. Instead, they shot accurately. The pure silver sniper bullets caused great pain to those demon rats and caused them great damage. Among the gunshots of the sniper rifles, some of them were even more abrupt and loud. They were the roars of the anti-tank rifles. Anti-tank rifles were one of the most abnormal individual weapons. They couldn't deal with those big spiders, but they could really kill one demon rat with one shot. Not only could they kill the demon rats, but they could also preserve their corpses so that they wouldn't be wasted. Xia Pinggan didn't make a move. He was the commander and observer. When the battle in the valley was in full swing, Xia Pinggan stood on a huge rock in the valley and silently watched the battle in the valley. It wasn't that Xia Pinggan didn't want to make a move, but if he did, the others would get less spoils. Therefore, under everyone's unanimous request, Xia Pinggan became a spectator in this kind of battle. If there was no need for him to intervene. Xia Pinggan observed the spells and summoned creatures of the summoners. Some of them were very interesting. The summoned creature of a summoner was a demonic vine that could drill out of the ground. The demonic vine was very powerful. It could tie up the spiders like a rope and make them unable to move. At the same time, the demonic vine could insert itself into the spiders' bodies and suck their blood, weakening them. At the same time, the blood of the spiders sucked by the demonic vine would be converted into life energy for other summoned creatures. Not only could it heal the injuries of other summoned creatures, but could also give them a longer time to descend to other planes. The 3 slave soldiers summoned by the summoner, who could summon vines, looked even more ferocious. Xia Pinggan had seen the demonic vine several times. Every time he saw it, Xia Pinggan would feel strange. He wondered what kind of historical illusions and historical figures were inside the so-called demonic vine realm bead that could summon such a thing. In addition to the demonic vine, another summoner summoned a ferocious golden eagle. The golden eagle could peck the eyes of those big spiders and make them look like headless flies. Xia Pinggan also saw Fong Lingshan's special summon creature. Fong Lingshan's special summon creature was a Valkyrie that was even more powerful than elite slave soldiers. The Valkyrie wore armor and held a long spear in her hand. She could fight evenly with a demonic fire spider by herself. The long spear in her hand could pierce holes all over the demonic fire spider's body. Any realm bead that men could fuse with could be fused with by women. However, some realm beads that only women could fuse with couldn't be fused with by men. Xiao Pingon didn't know what a woman would experience after fusing with a realm bead. It was said that only female summoners could fuse with a realm bead that could summon a Valkyrie. Male summoners couldn't fuse with it. Xiao Pingon secretly guessed that the realm bead might be Huan Mulan or Mu Gui. Just as Xiao Pingon was sizing up the battlefield, a phantom monster's demonic spirit and a demonic liquid spider panicked and rushed towards Xiao Pingon. Woof! The black dragon squatting next to Xiao Pingon saw the phantom monster's demonic spirit rushing over. It bared its teeth and pounced over with a low roar. It was like a hound tearing at its prey as it fiercely tore at it. The phantom monster's demonic spirit couldn't get rid of the black dragon's bite. It screamed and panicked as it emitted bursts of smoke. It was no match for the black dragon and couldn't even escape. As for the demonic liquid spider, just as Xiao Pingon was about to attack it, Tupelo hurriedly rushed over and shouted, "Don't waste it! Don't waste it! It's mine!" Tupelo brandished his saber and chopped off the legs of the demonic liquid spider, causing it to lose its ability to move and unable to approach Xiao Pingon. Xiao Pingon shook his head and smiled. Only a few minutes later, the battle in the valley gradually subsided. Chapter 131. After burping, the black dragon wagged its tail and ran back to Xiao Pingon's side. The phantom monster had just been torn into pieces by the black dragon and was finally swallowed by the black dragon. A group of soldiers in camouflage holding various weapons ran out from behind the trees and rocks on both sides of the hillside and began to skillfully clean up the battlefield. This was a perfect ambush. None of the soldiers on Zhang Tai's side were sacrificed. Only 2 pharmacists were slightly injured in the fight with the big spiders, but it was not serious. The burning spider silk and the open flames caused by the explosion of the fuel air bombs and rocket shells of those demonic fire spiders had to be extinguished in time. Otherwise, it might cause a big fire in the mountain forest. The corpses of those demonic creatures had to be collected and counted. The heads of those demonic creatures had to be cracked open to see if there were any realm pearls. The summoners were also digging brains to find any realm pearls that might exist on those demonic creatures. Compared to the various spells of the summoners, the digging brains of the soldiers was much simpler. They directly used a gasoline saw to cut open the heads of those demonic rats to see if there were any realm pearls. The fighters' booties belonged to themselves. If they found any realm beads, they would exchange them for 50 body-strengthening pills and 50 rune bullets, according to the ratio of 1 realm bead to 50 body-strengthening pills and 50 rune bullets. If they didn't have any realm beads, they could also exchange those demon rats and spiders' corpses for body-strengthening pills and rune bullets, according to the ratio of 1 realm bead to Xiao Pingon. Body-strengthening pills could constantly improve one's physical quality, while rune bullets could solve the threat of demonic spirits and demonic rats. These 2 things were the favorite of soldiers. As long as one had taken a body-strengthening pill and experienced its effects, they would be unable to resist the effects of the body-strengthening pill. For ordinary people, body-strengthening pills were too attractive. For those who were struggling on the border of life and death, when the crisis arrived, they would understand the importance of strength. A corpse of a demonic rat could be exchanged for 3 body-strengthening pills or 1 body-strengthening pill and 1 rune bullet from Xiao Pingon. A complete corpse of a big spider could be exchanged for 2 LV, 1 Shinli Dan, 1 rune bullet, and 1 body-strengthening pill from Xiao Pingon. There's a realm pearl here. It's the realm pearl of God's altar. A soldier exclaimed happily as he cut open the head of a demonic rat and dug out a realm pearl from its head. I've also found a realm pearl here. Another warrior on the other side also discovered it. Ha ha, I also have one here. Tupolu burst out into laughter as he dug out a realm pearl from the head of a demonic fire spider. After wiping the realm pearl clean, Tupolu muttered disappointedly, "Why is it only a realm pearl of God's fire?" The realm pearls dropped by demonic beasts belonged to the summoners themselves. These realm pearls were also important resources for summoners. Even if they couldn't use them, they could keep them or exchange them with other summoners. Xiao Pingon didn't interfere with the realm pearls obtained by summoners. Seeing that the battlefield was almost cleaned, Xiao Pingon started to clean up the battlefield. After counting the spoils, he distributed meal tickets to everyone. Meal tickets were the nicknames of these summoners and soldiers for the spoils of war issued by Xiao Pingon. The demon rat's coupons were pistol shells. The huge spider's coupons were assault rifle shells. The realm pearl's coupons were sniper rifle shells, which are marked with Xiao Pingon's signature. They could not be counterfeited. With these meal tickets, when they returned to the base, they could exchange them for pills or rune bullets from Xiao Pingon. One demonic rat could be exchanged for a meal ticket made of pistol shells. If the corpse of a demonic rat was incomplete, such as only half of its body, 2 demonic rats' corpses could be exchanged for a meal ticket, so on and so forth. After counting the spoils of demonic beasts, Zhang Tai put all the corpses of demonic beasts into the space teleportation warehouse. Everybody was convinced, which saved Xiao Pingon a lot of trouble. Xiao Pingon's secret mandala experienced another great change these days. The number of farmer in the mandala officially exceeded 500 people, both male and female. The number of technician and pharmacist each exceeded 50 people. The number of cows also exceeded 30. The previously deserted mandala tribe was now completely bustling with noise and excitement. It completely looked like a village. Since Xiao Pingon successfully integrated the Yang Sui realm pearl last time, bronzeware began to appear in the secret mandala. The craftsmen in the secret mandala began to smelt and make bronzeware. Under the leadership of Tsang Jie, the space teleportation warehouses in the secret mandala became 10. B, C, D, E, F, G, H, Run, and Gue. The numbers had all been used up. At the same time, the scale of the elixir room had also expanded more than 10 times. Now, there were countless pharmacists working in the elixir room at all times. The spoils of war collected by Xiao Pingon, as soon as they were put into the space teleportation warehouse, they would be processed and refined into various things. It was like an assembly line. In Xiao Pingon's warehouse A, the refined body, strengthening pill, initial spirit pill, and level 1 Shenli pill were piled up on several medicine shelves. Although the processing fee Xiao Pingon earned from a demon rat and a big spider was not much, and he also had to spend time to make some rune bullets, but there was an endless stream of demonic beasts sent to him. As long as Xiao Pingon earned a little from each demonic beast, the pills accumulated these days were already very terrifying. When all the monsters in the valley were cleaned up, Xiao Pingon raised his head and looked at the sky. The sky was a bit gloomy. The temperature was gradually dropping these days. The mountain was getting colder and colder, and the wind was getting stronger. It seemed that it would soon snow. Guo Wei, who was wearing a camouflage uniform and carrying a sniper rifle, walked over. He looked at the sky, pushed up his glasses, and said to Xiao Pingon, "The temperature has been getting colder and colder these past 2 days. It seems that it will snow soon. Once it snows, those demonic beasts will hide, and it won't be easy to encounter them. This chaotic situation can be temporarily stopped. Well, we have been out for 5 days this time. Those soldiers are a little tired. When it snows, we will return to the Yunwan mountain base." Xiao Pingon said, "Every one of those soldiers has taken the body strengthening pill. Their abilities are getting stronger and stronger. At least they can last for another week. The future is long, and there are still many battles to come. There is no need to rush. My goal is to have 0 deaths in every ambush." Yes, 0 deaths. This was Xiao Pingon's goal, and he had achieved it so far. Xiao Pingon used remote vision to lock on the target to ambush, and then chose the battlefield to fight with weapons and methods that could completely restrain those demonic beasts. If there were deaths, it might be a real accident. Under the leadership of Xia Pingon, the team of more than 200 people quickly disappeared from the valley. A few days later, a snowstorm came as scheduled. Both inside and outside the Yunwan mountain base, the entire Xinchuan and even more than half of the Izhou province were covered in snow. The mountains were white, and the wind was whistling. Heavy snow, like heavy rain, was what the demonic fire spiders feared the most. Before the snowstorm came, all the demonic fire spiders gradually hid. It was not easy to see them in the mountains outside the Yunwan mountain base. The movement of demonic rats in the snow would be limited. Additionally, demonic rats would leave obvious footprints wherever they went and hid. The heavy snow also limited their movement. When the weather turned cold, the demonic liquid spider silk that the demonic liquid spider spat out would be frozen. Its power would be weakened by more than half, and it would almost lose its corrosive ability. Therefore, the heavy snow was not a good thing for the demonic liquid spider. Therefore, the demonic liquid spider also hid. All the demonic beasts stopped when the snowstorm came. Amidst the heavy snow and strong winds, Xia Pingon and his team finally returned to the Yunwan mountain base after going out to hunt for a few days. Its Summer Priest team is back. At the entrance of the Yunwan mountain base, seeing Xia Pingon and his team walking in the heavy snow like snowmen, the guard at the entrance of the Yunwan mountain base hurriedly started the bulldozer that blocked the entrance and made way for them. Xia Pingon specially took out the tails of those demonic rats and the sharp fangs of demonic fire spiders and demonic liquid spiders from the space warehouse. He had each soldier hang them on their body so that everyone in the Yunwan mountain base could see their battle results. For summoners, such flaunting didn't matter. Summoners grew up under the awe and envy of the people around them. However, for those warriors, when they walked into the valley with these things hanging on their bodies, they all felt like generals who had just returned from a victorious battle. They all held their heads high and their chests puffed out with proud expressions on their faces. The soldiers of the 87th Division who were stationed at the base saluted. The civilians who were holding guns also saluted with their eyes, all of them looking at Xia Pingon's team with awe and envy as they sucked in cold breaths. How many demonic beasts did they kill to achieve such a result? The entire Yunwan mountain base was shocked. Chapter 132. He took out 50 body strengthening pills and 50 rune bullets to exchange for the last divine fire realm bead. The counting and exchange of the spoils of war for this expedition was finally over. Outside the window, the cold wind whistled. The warriors and summoners who had just received the pills and rune bullets all had smiles on their faces. The small auditorium of the military camp seemed to be quite lively. The warriors who had experienced the effects of the body-strengthening pills treated them as treasures. With the newly obtained body-strengthening pills, every time they ate one, their physical fitness and ability would improve a little. They would definitely be stronger the next time they set off. Every warrior received more than 10 body-strengthening pills. As for the summoners who participated in the battle, some of them also received level 1 Shinli Dan in addition to realm beads. After careful calculation, they still had a little surplus of divine power consumed. The more battles like this, the better. The wind and snow have been too heavy these past few days. The demons have temporarily ceased their activities. Everyone, take a good rest in the base. I will inform you of the time of the next mission. All right, dismissed. After Xia Pingon finished speaking, the people in the auditorium gradually dispersed. None of them were robots. They were a little tired. This time, they returned to the base and could take a good rest. I haven't been so relaxed for many days. Let's drink and get together tonight. I'll make a hot pot. Li Yinzhou raised his eyebrows and came in front of Xia Pingon. Okay, I heard you got a water realm bead. You're in luck, Xia Pingon asked. The water realm bead mentioned by the summoners was Yu the Great's realm bead. The success rate of fusion was very high. Ha ha ha, I can't compare to you. Didn't you get more? Li Yinzhou laughed, beaming with joy. You are now a standard nouveau riche. You saw it. Most of them are Foundation Establishment realm beads. Xia Pingon spread out his hands. He now had 11 Foundation Establishment Realm beads in his space warehouse. Including the rewards from this mission, he had enough for 3 people to reach the Foundation Establishment Realm. Some time ago, he had also obtained 2 Divine Power Realm beads, which he had fused with. After fusing with the 2 Divine Power Realm beads, Xiaoping's Divine Power limit had reached 465 points. Foundation Establishment Realm bead is also a good thing. If there's a chance in the future, I can exchange it for some good realm beads. Okay, let's not talk about it. When I entered the base, I saw someone hunting a deer. I will go and get some venison. See you at my place at 8 o'clock in the evening. Li Yinzhou finished speaking, waved his hand, and left. After Li Yinzhou left, Manzijin walked over and scratched her head. Sir, okay, I know. There will be nothing for the next few days. You don't have to follow me. Have a good rest. If you want to get together with your comrades, go ahead. It's not good to be tense all day long. Xiao moved his hand and took out a box of white wine from the space warehouse. Go. A smile appeared on Manzijin's face, and she took the box of white wine that Xiao had given her and left. After Manzijin left, Guowei walked in from the side door of the auditorium. His hat and body were covered with snow. He came to the front of Xiao and patted the snow off his body. I just want to check. These days, more than 100 refugees came to the base. No more accidents happened. No more women went missing or were violated. The methods you gave me last time were pretty good. Now all the citizens in the base have a military outpost with them. Once something happens, they will blow the whistle. There are patrols everywhere. There are no longer any criminal cases. When Xiao came to the Yunwan Mountain base for the first time, he heard some people talking about the women who came here being raped and thrown away. Xiao didn't know about this. After killing Pan Shirlu and establishing his power in the Yunwan Mountain base, Xiao suggested that all parties in the Yunwan Mountain base made some changes. First, the troops who occupied the ammunition depot and the base in the mountainside took out a lot of old-fashioned military outposts and distributed them to the citizens in the base. Each citizen was given a military outpost, which they had to carry with them at all times and blow the whistle in case of danger. Secondly, all the guards in the base had their own patrol areas. The citizen guards became the militia of the base. The troops dispatched people to train the militia. The militia was responsible for the security and patrol of the base. As long as the militia passed the training, they could freely apply to join the troops and officially become soldiers of the troops. They could play with any heavy weapons they wanted. Xiao also asked people to find 2 judges and some lawyers among the citizens and temporarily set up a citizen court in the base to mediate and solve various disputes in the base. After a few moves, the security situation in the base improved greatly and order was restored. Xiao also took the Black Dragon to the place where the female corpse was found and buried. As the female corpse had been cremated, many clues were not easy to find. However, the Black Dragon still found something unusual. Xiao didn't bat an eyelid. By the way, Colonel Wangchun and the others asked me to ask you if they can exchange the demon rats and those big spiders for medicinal pills and rune bullets from you. Xiao smiled and said, tell them that they can, but the corpses of those demons that come to me to exchange for pills and rune bullets can only be exchanged within 48 hours. They can't be exchanged after 48 hours. Xiao nodded and said, Okay, I understand. There's something I need you to arrange. What is it? Xiao whispered a few words to Guowei. Guowei's expression changed slightly and became solemn. He nodded. Understand. Don't worry. Leave it to me. I'll arrange it. Guowei also left. Only Xiao was left in the auditorium. Xiao walked out of the auditorium and looked at the sky. There were still 4 to 5 hours before nightfall. He wondered how Xiaoning was doing. Could he also see the snow? Xiao thought of his sister and was in a daze for a while. There was a layer of snow on the ground. The entire base was covered in silver. Pu. Xiao stepped on the snow and returned to his residence. Xiao took out 2 more realm beads that could be fused with the Foundation Establishment realm bead. One of the 2 realm beads was the Divine Power realm bead with the words Wu Qi's Danger Realm engraved on it. The other realm bead was called the Militia Realm Bead by summoners. After fusing with the Militia Realm Bead, the summoner would have a certain chance of turning some summoned farmer into militia. The militia's combat power was stronger than ordinary slave soldiers, and they could use many types of weapons. The Militia Realm Bead had the words Countrymen's Rebellion engraved on it. Xiao Pingon wasn't in a hurry to fuse with the Realm Bead. Instead, he closed his eyes and meditated in his room, conserving his energy. More than an hour later, almost the entire Yunwan mountain base knew that Summer Priest's good friend, Li Yunzhou, had traded for venison in the base and was going to have a drink with Xiao Pingon tonight. Along with this news, there were two other pieces of information. First, Summer Priest had obtained a lot of realm beads this time. It was said that Summer Priest had more than 10 to 20 realm beads. Second, Summer Priest had returned victorious and gave everyone a holiday. Even Manzijin, who was usually by Xia Pingon's side, went to have a gathering with her friends. Night came unknowingly. The second chapter will be updated later. Chapter 133. Outside the room, snowflakes swirled in the air. Inside the room, it was steaming hot. The aroma of venison hot pot was enticing people's taste buds. The table was already in a mess. The bottles of wine that Xiao Pingon took out were almost finished. If it was in the past, such a hot pot might not be a big deal. But at this time, it was absolutely luxurious to be able to eat such a hot pot. Venison, mushrooms, wood ears, ibaraki mushrooms, cabbage, kohlrabi, cauliflower, luncheon meat, braised pork knuckles, liquor, beer, wine. These things cannot be bought with money now. Except for the venison that Li Yunzhou got, the other things were all taken out by Xia Pingon from the spatial warehouse. Although it was called a hot pot, the result was a group of people eating the rich here. As usual, brass shells and a few military gasoline stoves were used. When everyone gathered together, the atmosphere instantly became lively. Tupela Li Yunzhou, Fong Lingshan, Xiao Pingon, Feng Yidao, Shiman Dan, Guowei, Shuesadeo, and Zhu Zhu, a total of 9 people. Feng Yidao and Shiman Dan were the fat and thin summoners that Xiao Pingon had rescued from Xinchuan City. The thin one was Feng Yidao, and the fat one was Shiman Dan. After the two of them came to Yunwan Mountain Base, they had been following Xiao Pingon wholeheartedly. They called Xiao Pingon boss and weren't afraid of being called mushy by others. Shuesadeo was a graceful middle-aged uncle. Mo Yin was a summoner of the Demon Suppression Guard. He knew Tu Polu and followed Xiao Pingon to battle. After these days of fighting, he became familiar with Xiao Pingon and the others. The group unknowingly gathered around Xiao Pingon. Zhu Zhu was a female summoner with great strength. She broke through to the first Yuan realm last year. She was also a summoner of the Izhou Demon Suppression Guard. She had long hair, almond eyes, red lips, and arrogance. Although she was not young, in her 30s, she was at her most feminine age. Zhu Zhu and Fong Lingshan were good friends who had known each other for many years. Feng Yidao was directly knocked down by Zhu Zhu's 2 bottles of white wine. When he spoke, his little face was flushed red. His tongue was tied, and his eyes were staring blankly. I was running for my life with Pang Dan. I saw those big spiders in front of me. At that time, my heart turned cold. I thought, it's over. This time I'm going to die here. I didn't expect that at this time. Boss appeared. Granny too cool. Once Boss came, he immediately killed those monsters. I was conquered at that time. At that time, I thought that if I follow this kind of person in the future, I'll definitely live a good life. See, I guess, right? My figure is so good. Who are you calling fat? You are fat. Your whole family is fat. Shiman Dan's eyes were also a little straight. As she spoke, she stood up and coquettishly shook her butt. You see, my body is so flexible. How am I fat? As Shiman Dan spoke, she even hit Feng Yidao twice. Who would have thought that it would be better if she didn't hit him? With this hit, Feng Yidao was directly hit until he was lying on the table. In a blink of an eye, he started snoring. Fong Lingshan also drank quite a bit of wine. Her pair of cold and charming big eyes were a little drunk. She stared at Xiao Pingon with a smile. yet not a smile in her eyes. You say, between me and Inqing, who is the prettiest? Who is the #1 beauty of Shanghai City's Committee of Order? Realm Pearl is the prettiest. Xiao Pinggan's cheeks turned red as if he was a little drunk. He picked up a bottle of white wine, stood up and gulped down half of it. The remaining half of the bottle was almost spilled on his clothes, making him smell of alcohol. After finishing this bottle, he took out another bottle and gulped down a lot of it, laughing heartily. Lying drunk on the battlefield, don't laugh. Since ancient times, how many people have returned from war? Good poem, good poem. As he spoke, Xiao Pinggan staggered open the door, allowing the cold wind and snowflakes outside to pour in, causing the fire of the military gasoline stove to sway. At the same time, Xiao Pinggan's figure had already walked out, disappearing into the wind and snow outside. We've drunk enough today. Summer Priest is a little drunk. Let me send him back. Guowei winked at Fong Lingshan and Tu Pelu, then stood up and hurriedly chased after Xiao Pinggan, closing the door. Zhu Dan looked at Fong Lingshan with a smile. This man is drunk at the right time. Tu Pelu touched his big bald head as he muttered the poem that Xiao Pinggan had just read out. Lying drunk on the battlefield, don't laugh. Since ancient times, how many people have returned from war? This poem is so interesting. I've never heard of it before. Was it written by Xiao Pinggan himself? Li Yunzhou had long been drunk as he was leaning over the table, giggling while holding a wine glass. Shuesadeo looked at Xiao Pinggan's back and the note that Guowei had just passed to him as he pondered. It was pitch dark outside. Almost no one could be seen in the huge military camp at this moment. Only those rooms were still lit. Almost no one could be seen in Yunwan Mountain Base, except for some sentry towers which were still dimly lit. Most of the soldiers who had returned to Yunwan Mountain Base were relaxing, drinking, or sleeping at this moment. Guowei, who had followed Xiao Pinggan out of the room, caught up with Xiao Pinggan, who was holding a bottle of wine. He wanted to support him, but was pushed away by Xiao Pinggan, who fell into a pile of snow. However, Guowei did not get angry. Instead, he continued to catch up with Xiao Pinggan, sending him all the way to the room in the courtyard of the barracks where Xiao Pinggan lived. After a few minutes, the light in the room went out. Guowei came out of the room and closed the door before leaving. Guowei didn't know that when he came out of Xiao Pinggan's room, a pair of weird eyes were gazing at him in the wind and snow. The light in Xiao Pinggan's room didn't come on again. Nobody came in either. It seemed that the people in the room had fallen asleep. 3 hours later, the lights in the rooms in the military camp went out one by one. In the entire military camp, except for 1 or 2 rooms in the distance, everyone else seemed to have fallen asleep. As for the people in the rooms that were still lit, they didn't turn off the light because they were drunk. Besides the sound of the wind, Yunwan Mountain Base was silent. After another hour, when the night was at its darkest, in the wind and snow outside Xiao Pinggan's living quarters, the snow on the ground piled up bit by bit with the whistling sound of the wind, gradually turning into a human-sized snowman. The snowman opened its eyes, revealing a pair of bloody and brutal eyes like a devil. After that, the snowman walked towards Xiao Pinggan's room step by step. Wherever the snowman walked, it didn't leave any footprints on the ground. It didn't make any sound, only leaving shallow water traces, which disappeared in the blink of an eye. When the snowman came to the door of Xiao Pinggan's room, its body melted bit by bit and turned into black water. Like mercury, the black water flowed into the room through the crack of the door. 2 seconds later, boom, Xiao Pinggan's room seemed to be lit with brilliant fireworks. The steel door of the room melted at once and broke into pieces before exploding outwards. A black figure flew out of the room while spitting out black blood. Now that you're here, do you still want to leave? Xiao Pinggan chased after him out of the room as fast as a ghost. Flames were flickering all over his body. Xiao Pinggan was still holding Tu Pelu's huge celestial saber. The moment the black figure flew out of the room while spitting out blood, Xiao Pinggan had already slashed towards him with his huge saber. The black figure was directly split into 2 halves from head to toe by Xiao Pinggan's huge saber. With a sharp scream, the black figure was unexpectedly split into 2 halves. In the blink of an eye, the two have turned into two smaller people and fled towards the left and right at the same time. Bang! Bang! AMR-98 instantly appeared in Xia Pinggan's hand. After two gunshots, the two fleeing black figures were pierced through by two rune bullets. They screamed miserably and turned into two balls of flames in the air. Wherever the flames burned, the snowflakes on the ground turned black and melted in the blink of an eye. Still not coming out. In the next second, the MR-98 in Xia Pinggan's hand disappeared. Closely after that, an individual fuel-air explosive launcher appeared in Xia Pinggan's hand. With a powerful weapon in hand, Xia Pinggan didn't even aim at it. He simply shot the individual fuel-air explosive towards the towering water tower over 70 meters away. Nobody expected Xia Pinggan to be so ruthless. Boom! The flames from the expanding fuel-air explosive not only alarmed the entire military camp, but also the entire Yunwan mountain base. The shockwave swept up snow all over the sky and swept all the way to Xia Pinggan's barracks. Xia Pinggan faced the shockwave head-on and rushed over. At the place where the fuel-air explosive exploded, a scream came from the water tower. A green figure was covered in flames. His skin was charred and cracked inch by inch. He flew down from the water tower and tried to escape. Old 2 catch. Xia Pinggan threw out the huge saber in his hand. The huge saber flew out like an arrow. Ha ha, here I come. With loud laughter, the bald 2 Palu suddenly sprung up from the snowflakes on the ground. He caught the huge saber thrown by Xia Pinggan and slashed towards that black figure like a thunderbolt. The huge saber started to burn in 2 Polu's hand. The raging flames spurted out of the saber. It looked like 2 Polu was holding a huge saber longer than 10 m. As 2 Polu slashed out, the flames also flew out of the saber and turned into a burning saber light. The saber light directly turned one of the black figure's legs into black powder and sprinkled down from the sky. With a muffled harumph, the black figure fell down from the sky. However, in the blink of an eye, he rushed out as fast as a lightning bolt. Why don't you lower the temperature at this moment? Fong Lingshan, Zhu Zhu, and Li Yunzhou appeared. The 3 water bombs almost hit that burning figure from 3 directions at the same time. When the flame met the water, it instantly cooled down. The outer shell of the black figure instantly exploded, revealing a human figure with a wolf-like head and covered in blood, as if it had been skinned alive. Chapter 134. Demon Wolf Mage. Li Yunzhou and the others exclaimed when they saw the bloody monster with a wolf's head. Before this, no one knew that the ambush was actually such a thing. That demon wolf mage was already seriously injured. Not only was there not an inch of intact skin on his body, but one of his legs had also been chopped off by 2 Polu. The demon wolf mage fell to the ground with blood flowing out of his body. He glanced at the people around him with a ferocious and bloody gaze before raising his head to howl and turning to run. Still want to run? Xia Pinggan had already rushed over and fired his MR-98 pistol. Rune bullets whizzed towards the demon wolf mage. That demon wolf mage was like a mad wolf, running close to the ground and twisting his body strangely like a bloody shadow. He dodged all 4 of Xia Pinggan's bullets. However, those bullets weren't Xia Pinggan's killing move. They were just tools to slow down the demon wolf mage's movements. Just as that demon wolf mage dodged the 4 bullets, Xia Pinggan had already rushed to the side of the demon wolf mage. With a move of his hand, a black cobra steel whip appeared in Xia Pinggan's hand. Xia Pinggan lashed out with the steel whip. The steel whip pierced through the air and whistled, stirring up the surrounding wind and snow. The snowflakes in the air condensed on the steel whip, causing the steel whip's length to more than double. It became a snowflake-like whip and ruthlessly lashed at the demon wolf mage's body. This time, the demon wolf mage's flesh was lacerated and his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. He simply couldn't dodge the unpredictable steel whip in Xia Pinggan's hand. With a blood-curdling scream, the demon wolf mage was struck by the snowflake whip in Xia Pinggan's hand. He fell from the air and crashed into the snowy ground. Not only that, but the body that had just been struck by Xia Pinggan's whip immediately froze and stiffened, forming a layer of ice shell. Crash! The demon wolf mage shattered the ice shell on his body. His body glowed with a bloody light, and he wanted to continue fleeing. Where do you think you're going? Tupolu and the others rushed towards the magic wolf mage. Tupolu held his saber and blocked the magic wolf mage's path, slashing his saber at it. Li Yinzhou and the others had already summoned fireballs, sending them flying towards the magic wolf mage. Sorcerer Demon Wolf's escape was a feint. The moment he lured Tupolu and the others away, Sorcerer Demon Wolf suddenly turned around and pounced at Xia Pinggan, letting out a shrill roar. "I'll kill you." The corner of Xia Pinggan's mouth revealed a trace of a sneer. He waved a black cobra whip in his hand. The snowflakes that filled the sky were stirred up by the long whip in his hand. Like whips, they also lashed at the demon wolf mage. The magic wolf mage bellowed, and dozens of tiny icicles flew out of the snow on the ground. Those icicles were like countless bullets shooting towards Xia Pinggan. Xia Pinggan waved his hand, and a rippling water shield appeared in front of him. Those icicles were immediately frozen when they hit the water shield, turning the water shield into an ice shield. Xia Pinggan held the ice shield and fiercely rushed out, using the ice shield to protect his body. He was like a meteor as he fiercely crashed into the magic wolf mage's body. The thick ice shield was completely shattered by the huge impact. That magic wolf mage spat out a mouthful of blood from the impact, and a large number of bones in his body cracked at the moment of impact. The battle with Sorcerer Demon Wolf was not only a battle of physical strength, but also a battle of spells. It was an extremely dangerous battle. Just as Xia Pinggan knocked the magic wolf mage to the ground, a black fog surged from the magic wolf mage's body. That black fog bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it directly pounced towards Xia Pinggan. "Be careful, that's the bone-corroding fog," Zhu Zhu called out from afar. Xia Pinggan's body quickly bounced up and retreated, avoiding the black fog. The black fog continued to pounce towards Xia Pinggan. The magic wolf mage took the opportunity to roll on the snow and get up, wanting to continue fleeing. However, just as he was about to run again, a cute palm-sized black little turtle appeared in the snow in front of him. That little turtle bit the magic wolf mage's foot. With just one bite, the ferocious magic wolf mage's body was instantly frozen, turning into a black ice sculpture. While retreating, Xia Pinggan took out the MR-98 once again. Bang! The muzzle of the MR-98 flashed, and a runed bullet was fired. The runed bullet passed through the bone-corroding fog, and the rune effect on the bullet was activated. The bone-corroding fog immediately burned, and the bullet itself passed through the black fog and hit the frozen magic wolf mage's head. Just like an exquisite piece of porcelain being shattered, the magic wolf mage's entire body, which was like an ice sculpture, was shattered into countless pieces the moment the bullet hit it, shattering all over the ground. The burning bone-corroding fog turned into a black liquid and fell to the ground. Smoke rose from the ground, and a large hole was corroded. The surrounding snow whistled. The fierce battle was finally over. The other summoners in the camp who had been alarmed just now rushed over. In the distance, flames could be faintly seen in the snow. That was a team of warriors rushing over. Xia Pinggan put away the MR-98 in his hand and walked over to the magic wolf mage's corpse. He kicked the frozen wolf teeth and broken bones on the ground and shook his head. This magic wolf mage is really hard to deal with. Tupolu and the others had already walked over. "Are you all right?" Tupolu asked. "I'm fine." Xia Pinggan shook his head. "You already knew that there was a magic wolf mage hiding in the base?" Zhu Zhu asked. Xia Pinggan spread out his hand. In his hand, there was a small plastic bag. In the bag, there was a thin brown wolf's bristle. "This is what I found by the lake where the woman was killed when I first came here. This is not an ordinary wolf's bristle. This wolf's bristle has the aura of the murdered woman." The surrounding people all sucked in a breath of cold air. Xia Pinggan actually found a wolf bristle with the aura of the murdered woman in such a huge Yunwan mountain base. This was too abnormal. Ah, your hand. Li Yinzhou looked at Xia Pingyan's hand, and his expression changed slightly. Under everyone's attention, a black pattern of a roaring wolf head with blood-red eyes quietly appeared on the back of Xia Pingyan's right hand near the web between his thumb and index finger. That pattern was like a tattoo, silently appearing. This is the Magic Wolf Mage's curse. Everyone who kills the Magic Wolf Mage will be left with the Magic Wolf Mage's death curse mark. This mark will be sensed by the other members of the Magic Wolf Mage's family, and they will seek revenge on you. Fan Lingshan looked at Xia Pingyan and said softly. Chapter 135. The Magic Wolf Sorcerer was a sorcerer of the Magic Wolf race among the space-invading creatures. The Magic Wolf race was a bit like the werewolves and the legends on Earth. The genes of this race allowed them to exist in the form of humans during normal times. Only under certain circumstances would they transform into magic wolves. Compared to invading creatures like magic rats and magic fire spiders, the Magic Wolf race was more terrifying. They were better at hiding and had greater destructive power. In addition to the Magic Wolf Sorcerer, there were also Magic Wolf Warriors. A large group of summoners rushed over. Several commanding officers of the 87th Legion had also arrived. The originally peaceful military camp had been broken. Under the light of the flashlight, looking at the Magic Wolf Sorcerer's body that had turned into pieces on the ground, everyone who had rushed over had a solemn expression and a chill in their hearts. Previously, there were too many people fleeing to the Cloud Bay Mountain base. We couldn't verify everyone's identity. I didn't expect that there would be a member of the Magic Wolf race among those people. Colonel Wang Chang said with a face full of fear. If this person hadn't been discovered tonight and continued to stay in the base, I don't know what he would have done. There are many summoners in the base, so this person didn't dare to act rashly. He didn't dare to use spells easily. He only JS'd a woman. I didn't expect that he would still be discovered by Summer Priest. A summoner also had a lingering fear. The Magic Wolf Sorcerer and a Magic Wolf Warrior are invading creatures that specialize in hunting and assassinating human summoners. They are the great enemies of all summoners. If this guy hadn't been killed by Summer Priest, I don't know how many people would have suffered in the future. At this moment, Shuesadeo came out of the crowd with a lamp in his hand. He looked at the pieces of the body on the ground and then looked at Xia Pingyan. He slightly sucked in a breath of cold air. How's the situation in the town? Xia Pingyan asked directly. Everything is normal in the town. No one escaped, and there are no abnormal fluctuations of divine power. Shuesadeo replied. The mission that Shuesadeo had received previously was for him to monitor the situation in the town tonight. If there was a fight here, he would see if there were any abnormalities in the town. This was an arrangement that Xia Pingyan had made to prevent the person who attacked from having hidden accomplices in the Cloud Bay Mountain base. It seems like there's only one demon wolf magician who managed to sneak into the Yunwan Mountain base. He doesn't have any other accomplices, so there's no need to worry. Let's disperse and do what we're supposed to do. I'm afraid the townspeople will panic if we gather here in the middle of the night. Xia Pingyan said to everyone. The summoners who had gathered looked at each other before dispersing. Should we tell the citizens of Yunwan Mountain Base about this? Wang Cheng exchanged glances with the officers around him and asked for Xia Pingyan's opinion in an inquiring tone. Let's make an announcement and tell them the truth. Being secretive will only make people panic. Just say that we found and killed a magic wolf mage tonight. Won't this cause panic among the townspeople? At times like this, hiding the truth will cause real panic. Understood. The troops left after dealing with the scene. Seeing that Xia Pingyan was in danger tonight and that she wasn't by his side to protect him, Manzijin walked over with a guilty expression. Sir, it's fine. Tonight is a trap that I set up. If you guard my door, this magic wolf mage might not dare to take the bait. I still have to send you away. Like this, it's best, Xia Pingyan said as he patted Manzijin's shoulder. I wonder how many people from this magic wolf mage's family came from the space crack. Li Yinzhou looked at Xia Pingon and the cursed tattoo of a wolf head on his arm with some concern. According to the historical data of the Committee of Order, every time the Magic Wolf clan came to our world through the space crack, they would come in a family unit. A Magic Wolf clan can have at least a dozen people or more. You have to be careful in the future. If you want to go somewhere in the future, it's best to bring a few more people with you. Don't try to show off by yourself. Tupolu said in a deep voice. Yeah, the Magic Wolf clan is very vengeful. If you don't want to be killed by the Magic Wolf clan for no reason in the future, you'd better improve your strength as soon as possible. Even the most common Magic Wolf warrior has the battle strength of the first Yuan realm and is extremely fierce. The Magic Wolf mage you killed just now wasn't the strongest among them. The strongest Magic Wolf mage will grow 2 more heads after appearing, and their fur will change color many times before finally turning into gold or white. Fong Lingshan said. I know. More pressure is more motivation. Xiao Pingon smiled. It's too late today. Let's go back and rest. If you can't stay in a room in your courtyard, just move to our courtyard. Our courtyard is big, and there are still a few empty rooms. Let's stay together and take care of each other. Tupolu said. Xiao Pingon thought about it and didn't refuse. He nodded and said, Okay. The room he was staying in previously was almost destroyed after the fight with a Magic Wolf mage. The room was in a mess, and some things were even poisoned. Xiao Pingon couldn't be bothered to clean it up, so he just burned it all down and moved to another place. Manzijin followed Xiao Pingon and moved to the courtyard where Tupolu and the others were staying. Xiao Pingon's room was right next to Tupolu's. Xiao Pingon's room was opposite Fong Lingshan's room. Manzijin directly moved to an empty room at the entrance of the courtyard. After returning to the room, he closed the door and took out a sleeping bag from the space warehouse and threw it on the bed. Xiao Pingon looked at the cursed mark of the wolf head on his right hand and then carefully checked his entire body. He didn't find any problems with his body, but the cursed mark of the wolf head looked a little strange. He didn't feel sleepy at all. Xiao Pingon simply took out the realm pearl that Wu Qi had given him and began to fuse with it. After dripping a drop of blood on it, Xiao Pingon's entire body was soon enveloped in a cocoon of light. Xiao Pingon opened his eyes and found himself sitting on a large ship. There were several large ships guarding the side. The large ship sailed on the river, its flags fluttering in the wind. There were many people on the ship. From their attire, one could tell that the people on the ship were all high-ranking officials and dignitaries of the Wei Kingdom during the Warring States period. On both sides of the river, there were steep mountain ridges. Eagles were whistling and monkeys were crying. In the river, there were turbulent currents everywhere. A group of people stood at the bow of the ship, pointing out the mountains and rivers. Among the people standing at the bow of the ship, there was one person. He was short and stout, with a thick beard on his face. He was wearing the king's robes and looked very imposing. These mountains and rivers are extremely steep. They surpass 100 cities. Our Wei Kingdom has such steep mountains and rivers to rely on. Who can fight their way in? The heavens have been kind to our Wei Kingdom. Ha ha! Xiao Pingon looked at the man and knew that he was likely the Marquis of Wei. Judging from the man's imposing manner, he was indeed worthy of being a mighty ruler who had revitalized the Wei Kingdom. Seeing Marquis Wei so happy, the ministers serving Marquis Wei all began to cater to him. Your Majesty is right. Our Wei Kingdom has such a natural moat, but with the benefits of the rivers and rivers, our Wei Kingdom will definitely dominate the world in the future. This is a gift from the heavens to your Majesty. If Prime Minister Li was still around, he would be happy for your Majesty when he saw your Majesty's achievements today. Prime Minister Li was referring to Li Quan. During Wei Wenho's reign, Li Quan had been the Wei Kingdom's prime minister and had presided over the Wei Kingdom's reform. Li Quan was also a representative of the legalists in the Wei Kingdom. Unfortunately, Li Quan had passed away a year after Marquis Wei succeeded the throne. Losing the support of an elder in the imperial court had always been a regret in Marquis Wei's heart. These officials naturally picked out the good things that the Marquis of Wei liked to hear. The reason why the Jin kingdom was so strong back then was because of the dangers of the mountains and rivers. One of the officials stroked his goatee and said to the Marquis of Wei, "Our Wei kingdom now has the same conditions as the Jin kingdom. If your majesty can further cultivate politics and work hard, your majesty will definitely be able to lead our Wei kingdom to dominate the world and achieve great feats for generations to come." The Marquis of Wei laughed heartily. The latter words had struck a chord in his heart. Ha! Prime Minister Wang is right. The Marquis of Wei swept his gaze around and realized that everyone on the ship was saying things that made him happy. Only Xiao Pinggan was standing silently at the side, looking at Wang Zhong and himself with a strange gaze. The Marquis of Wei couldn't help but think, "Prime Minister Wu, why aren't you saying anything? Could it be that you feel that what we said was wrong?" Xiao Pinggan looked at Wang Zhong, his heart filled with surprise. He didn't think that the father of the future world-shaking Gue Guzi would look like this. Wang Zhong was a sinister and despicable person, but this sinister and despicable person's son had the ability to shake the heavens and change the earth. He was the most amazing person of this era and had influenced countless people. According to the historical records, Wu Qi's words today would go down in history, but at the same time, he had also offended Wang Zhong, laying the groundwork for him to be plotted against and flee to the Wei kingdom in the future. In the imperial court, by the side of the king, sabers and swords could kill people without leaving a trace. One wrong word could lead to a life of exile, so one couldn't help but be cautious. If Xiao Pinggan was really Wu Qi, he would probably agree with what the others said. There was no need to show off his eloquence. But right now, his goal was to fuse with the Realm Pearl, so he could only say whatever Wu Qi said. Wu Qi's thinking was thousands of years ahead of this era, and even people thousands of years later might not be able to fully understand it. In the words of the future, Wu Qi was the first person in the world to propose that a country's most important defense line was the country's values and thinking, and not its defense fortifications and mountain passes. If a country's values and thinking collapsed and became chaotic, then no matter how many armies a country had, no matter how many strategic passes it occupied, it would still collapse and become chaotic, as expected of the military god of this era. Xiao Pinggan sighed and said directly, "Your Majesty's words just now are very dangerous for the Wei Kingdom. All the ministers are agreeing with your Majesty, and I'm afraid that if we aren't careful, the Wei Kingdom's foundation will be ruined." Marquis Weiwu's expression turned cold, and the other ministers also shut their mouths and looked at Xiao Pinggan. Wang Zhong's expression was even more stiff. "Why do you say that, Minister Wu?" Marquis Weiwu hurriedly asked. "The danger that a country relies on is not in the rivers, passes, or cities, but in virtue. Chapter 136. In the past, the Samyao clan was located in a strategic location, surrounded by Daunting Lake on the left and Pengli Lake on the right. Weren't they destroyed by you because of their lack of morals? Xiajie's capital was located in an even more strategic location, surrounded by the Yellow River and Ji River on the left, Mount Tai and Mount Hua on the right, Ike to the south, and Yangchang Ban Pass to the north. Where is Xiajie today? The same goes for King Zhou of Yin. From this point of view, the stability of a country depends on virtue, not danger. When virtue flourishes, the country flourishes. When virtue declines, the country declines. In the past, those who wanted to establish a country had to first educate the people and be close to the people. Their actions were based on virtue. Great King Zhou, please understand. After Xiao Pinggan finished speaking, the ship was completely silent. Marquis Weiwu's expression was greatly moved. In Minister Wu's words, what is the virtue of a country? The virtue of a country lies in the hearts of the people, in the 4 words of propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame. Propriety and righteousness are the great methods of governing people. Integrity and shame are the great virtues of establishing people. If one is not honest, there is nothing one will not take. If one is not shameless, there is nothing one will not do. When people are like this, there is no place they will not go. Moreover, as a minister, there is nothing he will not do, and there is nothing he will not do. If the country is shameless, is there anyone who will not perish? At this point, Xiao Pingan felt somewhat emotional. In the end, all the disasters that would befall the Chinese people in the future were disasters brought about by the collapse of values, propriety, integrity, and shame. And the collapse of values, propriety, integrity, and shame basically started from the ruling class and the scholar officials. The latter words were actually not said by Wu Qi, nor were they invented by him. Propriety, integrity, and shame were first mentioned by Guan. Guan listed them as the 4 dimensions of a country, which are the 4 dimensions and standards of a country's values. Later on, the 5th generation's Feng Dao explained the relationship between them and the rise and fall of a country. Minister Wu's words are great and can be used to govern a country for generations to come. Marquis Wei Wu praised. The ministers on the ship looked over. When one of them saw Xia Pingan standing in the limelight, the corners of his mouth twitched. He said with some indignation, "Lord Wu's words are quite good." However, when Lord Wu abandoned his mother and killed his wife for fame and future, where was his propriety, integrity, and shame? Marquis Wei Wu saw that someone was exposing Wu's past scars and looked at the minister, who spoke with displeasure. Minister Wu's talent. Wei and Lu had talents like Minister Wu, who did not cherish them and let pearls be covered in dust. This is the cause of these 2 countries' decline. This is the cause of these 2 countries. Seeing that even Marquis Wei Wu was speaking up for Wu Qi, giving him a way out, the official hurriedly bowed and retreated, not daring to say another word. Looking at the scenery by the river, Xiao Pingan sighed in his heart. Wu Qi was a great talent and also a ruthless person. However, Wu Qi's ambition and desire for fame and glory were too great. He abandoned his mother and killed his wife, a proud dragon with regrets. He lived his life in various countries and finally escaped from Wei. He did not have a good ending in Chu. With the death of King Song of Chu, Wu Qi also welcomed the end of his life. Wu Qi had made great contributions to Chu, but in the end, he was killed by the nobles of Chu who bore a grudge against him. Wu Qi had spent his life constantly in pursuit of fame and glory, but in the end, he was buried by his own pursuit of fame and glory. The fate that the heavens had arranged for him was truly lamentable. In this chaotic world, hundreds of schools of thought contended for supremacy. Heroes, masters, and heroes fought against each other. The will of the heavens was clear, and karma was real. It was truly awe-inspiring. Xiao Pingan was silent for a moment, then looked at the people on the ship. In this era of great strife, it's natural for a man to pursue achievements. However, abandoning my mother and killing my wife is the regret of my life. I'm not worthy of being a son nor a husband. Every time I think about it, I regret it. If I can start my life over again, I'd rather be an ordinary man in Wei country than let my mother and my wife down. If I have to sacrifice my family in exchange for the fame of a man, it's fine if I don't take it. If I don't have a good ending in the future, I'll be punished by the heavens. Hearing Xia Pingan say this, everyone on the ship glanced at each other. The Marquis of Wei Wuho was moved once more. No one had expected the usually headstrong Wu Qi to reveal his true feelings at this time, to speak such moving and sincere words. The realm beads whirled, instantly shattered. This realm pearl was fusing too quickly. In the secret mandala's shrine, 15 more points of divine force appeared. At the same time, a portrait of Wu Qi and the Marquis of Wei Wuho appeared. When Xiao Pingan's consciousness looked at the portrait, the Wu Qi in the portrait moved. Wu Qi's face was filled with disappointment, and he seemed to sigh as he bowed to Xiao Pingan. Next to Wu Qi's portrait were the portraits that Xiao Pingan had obtained from fusing with the Rel Pearl. One of the portraits was of Sima Guang repelling the Qilin. It was about Song Renzong's later years when the Jiaoji kingdom offered a Qilin to the great Song, but it was returned by Sima Guang. The other portrait was of Emperor One of Han wearing straw sandals to the Great Song. These were two historical stories, and the fusion had been very easy. Xiao Pingan opened his eyes and looked at the time. It had not even been 3 minutes since he had fused with the Realm Pearl. Following this, Xiao Pingan took out the second Realm Pearl, Countryman's Rebellion. This was a story that most people who were familiar with Chinese history would know. It was about the time of King Li of Zhou, and the idiom roads with goals came from this period. King Li of Zhou was insatiably greedy, and he controlled the entire country's forests and lakes. Everything that was produced belonged to the emperor, and he did not allow any countryman to enter to make a living. At the same time, he used spies to rule the country, forcing everyone to roads with goals. In the end, the commoners of Haojing all banded together and rebelled, forcing King Li of Zhou to escape from Haojing to Shaanxi's Linfen. He did not dare to return to Haojing ever again. Because of this rebellion, there was the first era in Chinese history that used the word republic as its name, and it was known as the Zhou Republic. This rebellion was the first time in Chinese history that the commoners took up arms to defend their rights, and it had great significance. I wonder if I can rewrite history this time. I wonder if I can ambush King Li of Zhou during the Haojing Rebellion and take his life. Xiao Pingan thought to himself as he took a deep breath and began to bleed. In the next few days, everything in the Yunwan mountain base went on as usual, just as Xiao Pingan expected. After the army announced that a demon wolf sorcerer had sneaked into the base and was killed, it did not cause much panic among the people in the base. To the people in the base, they had been trained by the heavenly tribulation and various space invasions, and their nerves were already very strong. A demon wolf sorcerer that was killed was forgotten by the people in just a few days. The snow did not end. The valley and the roads outside were all sealed by the snow. The snow was getting thicker and thicker, and the demons had completely disappeared. The boundary pearl of the national rebellion merged perfectly again, but King Li of Zhou still did not manage to kill him. He escaped, and the history in the boundary pearl did not change. Xiao Pingan also rested for a few days, which was rare. During these few days, Xiao Pingan was free to make rune bullets, practice martial arts with Tu Polu and the others, or have hot pot. After a few days of peace, a group of more than 2,000 refugees came to the Yunwan mountain base along the road. The arrival of this group of refugees broke the peace of the Yunwan mountain base and brought about a lot of chaos. This caused the daily necessities in the Yunwan mountain base, especially food, to become scarce. Finally, one day, in order to fight for food and shelter, the newcomers and the people who came before opened fire in the town. Shots were fired, killing 3 people and wounding 5 others at the same time. This gunshot not only broke the peace of the Yunwan mountain base, but also ended Xiao Pingan's short holiday. Chapter 137. The current situation is that the troops in the base have enough food for 6 months, but the food supply for the 20,000 people is already a little tight. Based on the current consumption rate, the food reserves of the people in the base can only last for slightly more than 4 months. They can wait until spring to plant the wheat next year before the food in the base is completely depleted. During this period, if there are still refugees coming to the base, the food reserves of the base will be depleted even faster, and the conflicts caused by the lack of food will increase. In the auditorium of the military camp, all the summoners in the Yunwan mountain base, a few officers in the army, and some representatives of the people's organizations were gathered here. There were more than 100 people in total, and they began to discuss how to deal with the current crisis. Colonel Wang Cheng was introducing the situation in the base. Yesterday's gunshots had exposed the food crisis that the base was facing to everyone. The Yunwan mountain base had a lot of ammunition, but the food reserves here were limited. After 20,000 to 30,000 people poured in, there was not much food left in the Yunwan mountain base. According to the original plan, after spring next year, everyone would be more frugal. After planting the first batch of spring wheat and vegetables, the food supply of the base should be able to gradually ease. They would be self-sufficient and still have some surplus. However, The situation in front of them was not optimistic. With the arrival of the new refugees, the food supply in the base, which was already tight, became even tighter. If we allow hunger to spread, even if we can plant spring wheat next year, the spring wheat and other food crops in the base's farm won't be harvested. A silver-haired, bespectacled old man said softly. This old man was one of the representatives of the people in the base. He was a retired teacher and had a lot of prestige among the people. He brought some people and re-established a school in the base. I've been to Africa before. I've seen the destruction caused by hunger in Africa. Hunger can turn people into beasts. I suggest that we completely seal the entrance to the Yunwan mountain base now. We can't let anyone in, a strong representative in his 30s said directly. I know that this is cruel, but the more people we let in, the worse the food crisis in the base will be. This is murder. A woman in her 40s with long hair said loudly, "What's the difference between keeping people out of the base and sending them to their deaths? Where's our sympathy? Don't forget, we were once like them." I firmly disagree, and neither will our Sisters Association. Let those hungry people in. That's the real murder. More people will die because of it. The representative who proposed to block the entrance of the base immediately refuted loudly. Without food, what do you have for sympathy? Your cheap sympathy will only kill more people. At this moment, between the interests of the majority and the interests of the minority, we can only choose the interests of the majority. Human life is not a math problem. Madam, you're wrong. At a time like this, human life is like a math problem. One side is 20,000, the other side is 2,000. There's no doubt about which side is more worthy of saving. This is too cold-blooded. The choice between life and death can't satisfy everyone. Hot-bloodedness can't save anyone. Before the summoners and the officers could speak, the representatives began to quarrel and blame each other. It wasn't until Colonel Wang Chung, who was presiding over the meeting, couldn't help but knock on the table in front of him. The quarrel between the representatives finally stopped. The base's supply base has already been rationed. I suggest that on the basis of the current rationing system, everyone's daily food ration, except for summoners, should be reduced by 20%. This is the suggestion of me and the officers of the military officer group. We will start with the troops. From tomorrow onwards, the soldiers who are not carrying out missions will receive 80% of the usual food ration, while the soldiers carrying out missions will receive 100% of the food ration. In this way, we can hold on for 1/5 longer or save 1/5 more people. Colonel Wang Cheng's words silenced everyone in the meeting room. There are a lot of preys in the mountains. There are black bears, moose, and antelopes. We can go hunting in the mountains. Summoners won't starve. Tupolu glanced around and said in a low voice, "We're summoners fighting in the front line, not pampered young masters and misses. I'm willing to give up my food ration. You can give my food to those who need it. If I need food, I will go hunting and exchange for it with prey. I'm also willing to give up my food ration. If I need food, I will also exchange for it with prey." Fong Lingshan said as she stroked her hair. "If others are starving, I won't be able to eat too much. I'm also willing to give up my food ration. Summoners can be self-sufficient." Li Yinzhou said. "I'm also willing to give up." Zhu Zhu said. "Do we need to be afraid of this? We can eat any antelope we hunt for half a month. If we're really hungry, the meat of demon rats can also be eaten." Shuesadeo smiled and said softly, "I'm also willing to give up. I'm also willing to give up," Xia Pingan said. Seeing Xia Pingan's attitude, all the other summoners also expressed their willingness to give up their food ration in the base. No one could be picky about their attitude. Summoners really didn't have to worry about starving to death. If even summoners could starve to death, then there probably wouldn't be any ordinary people left alive. After all the summoners had expressed their opinions, a few representatives put forward some suggestions, such as organizing food production teams, such as harvesting teams, fishing teams, and production teams. There were also some suggestions, such as advocating frugality and advising the elderly and women to eat less. The more reliable suggestion was that one of the representatives suggested that they first look for some materials in the base, try to build some vegetable greenhouses, and organize people to try to produce vegetables out of season. The meeting lasted for more than an hour. In the end, everyone left one after another. Although this meeting didn't propose a complete solution to the food crisis, some countermeasures were put forward. That was all they could do now. During the entire meeting, Xiao Pingon didn't say anything other than expressing his opinion once. It wasn't until everyone left the auditorium and went outside that Xiao Pingon stopped Guo Wei and gave him a look, asking him to stay. The cold wind was still blowing outside. Xiao Pingon pulled Guo Wei under a pine tree to talk. Aren't there a few underground granaries near Xinchuan City? What about you? Can you get your hands on the construction plans of Xinchuan City's granaries? Xiao Pingon asked directly. As soon as he heard Xiao Pingon's question, Guo Wei's expression changed. He already knew what Xiao Pingon wanted to do. No, it's too dangerous. Xinchuan is practically the world of those magical creatures now. Xiao Pingon smiled. My hands have been itching for the past few days. I want to go to Xinchuan to take a look. If there's still food in the underground granary of Xinchuan, I'll bring some back. Won't this problem be solved? I'll bring some people with you. I'll go alone. If someone follows me, they'll be too big of a target. Secondly, they'll distract me and affect my efficiency. You might not be able to keep up when I'm running. Guo Wei hesitated. Old Two and the others won't go. It's more convenient for me to go alone. I'll come back once I get the food. If not, I'll just go to Xinchuan to investigate again. Seeing Xiao Pingon's firm attitude, Guo Wei couldn't help but nod. There's a lot of information stored in the base. I'll go look for it. Okay, if you find it, send it over this afternoon. Guo Wei nodded and waited for Guo Wei to leave in a hurry. Manzijin walked out from the side and looked at Xiao Pingon eagerly. I want to go, don't go anywhere. Finish the body-strengthening pills I gave you first. Don't forget that you have a heavy responsibility now. As soon as she heard Xiao Pingon's words, Manzijin could only remain silent. Is it really possible to fuse with the Realm Pearl after eating 180 body-strengthening pills? I don't know. It's just my feeling. It might be dangerous and it might fail, but I think it's worth a try. Manzijin nodded heavily. A few hours later, Guo Wei sent over 2 maps. When the sky turned dark, Xiao Pingon quietly left the Yunwan mountain base alone, wearing a cloak and a pair of skis. Xiao Pingon took advantage of the night and braved the wind and snow to ski through the night. Relying on his valiant body, he returned to the outskirts of Xinchuan City the next morning. The entire Xinchuan City was covered in silver, and there was no sign of life. All the roads were piled up with snow. Xiao Pingon used his remote vision ability to take a look. The underground air raid shelters and shopping malls of Xinchuan City were densely packed with devil fire spiders and devil liquid spiders. The devil rats were crowded in the residential buildings of the residential areas. Some of them had dug a lot of holes in the ground, but on the surface, no abnormalities could be seen. When Xiao Pingon's gaze landed on the vicinity of the 2 permanent space fissures in Xinchuan City, his heart shook fiercely. F***CK. The streets in the vicinity of the 2 spatial rifts had completely changed. A large number of devil wolves had already occupied the streets around the spatial rifts. Devil wolf warriors with weapons on their backs and walking upright on their feet were everywhere. Devil wolf warriors were different from devil wolf mages. Devil wolf warriors had the shape of wolves and were tall. Each devil wolf warrior was about 2 meters tall and was covered in hair from head to toe. They were full of wildness. Wild wolf warriors wore leather armor and carried something similar to an old-fashioned flintlock on their backs. They also held swords and sabers. It seemed that the large number of devil wolves had just come out of the spatial rifts. The patrolling devil wolf warriors were full of vigilance and curiosity. Just as Xiao Pingon used his remote vision ability to patrol, devil wolf warriors kept coming out of the spatial rifts. Chapter 138. The space cracks were unusually busy. Too many demonic wolves were pouring out of the space cracks. Behind the space cracks was like a hell full of demons and ghosts. Numerous demonic wolves kept pouring out of the space cracks. When Xiao Pingan was paying attention to the two space cracks with his remote vision ability, Xiao Pingan suddenly found that the two space cracks started to twist and change. All of a sudden, a golden light spot appeared in the pitch-black space cracks. The golden light spot grew bigger and bigger, gradually spreading out and illuminating the two space cracks completely. In the golden light, a huge tree with luxuriant leaves appeared in the space cracks. Xiao Pingan was dumbfounded. Previously, he had heard Fang Lingshan and Tu Pula talk about the scene of the space cracks disappearing in Qianlong mountain range. He had not imagined that he could witness it with his own eyes after returning to Xinchuan. Yes, the scene in front of him was exactly the same as what Fang Lingshan and Tu Polu had described. In the light and shadow of the huge tree, Zhang Tai could really see a person sitting cross-legged under the tree. Xiaoping's heart raced as he was shocked by this scene. When the light and shadow of the huge golden tree appeared, all the demonic wolves became flurried, as if they had a premonition of what was going to happen. Numerous demonic wolves started to shout and scream with panic-stricken looks. Those demonic wolves that were close to the space cracks desperately ran away. Those demonic wolves that were still in the space cracks desperately tried to escape out of the space cracks. Xiao Pingan saw the arms, legs, heads, and bodies of demonic wolves desperately trying to squeeze out of the golden space crack. However, their bodies gradually solidified, and their movements became slower and slower like flies and insects solidified in quick-drying cement. They stopped moving one by one. On the surface of the spatial crack, countless bodies and arms stretched out. However, from the moment the golden light appeared, not a single demon wolf was able to squeeze out of the spatial crack. In the next second, with a flash of golden light, the two huge, permanent space cracks burst like two bubbles and disappeared in a split second. The arms, legs, half of the body, and heads of the demonic wolves that stretched out of the space crack were cut off like being cut off by a sharp guillotine. With a crash, the moment the space crack disappeared, they fell down from the sky like rain. The demon wolves' severed limbs piled up into a small hill on the ground. There were hundreds and thousands of them, and their blood had gathered into a blood pool. It was unknown how many demon wolves had perished along with the space crack. Previously, Xiao Pingan had felt a great pressure when he saw the devil wolves in New River City. But now he felt that the devil wolves had been utterly defeated, their morale plummeting. Although the number of devil wolves had increased, they were like frightened birds, shivering in fear. One by one, the devil wolves fled far away from the place where the spatial rift had appeared. Xiao Pingan did not know what was going on with the golden tree and the figure sitting cross-legged under it, because it was beyond his understanding. However, the two permanent spatial rifts disappeared right before his eyes. This was great news, absolutely great news. The disappearance of the permanent spatial rifts meant that the demonic creatures would no longer be able to continuously come out of the space crack. There would definitely be fewer of them if they were killed. There was hope for the recovery of New River City. He wondered if the permanent spatial rifts in other places had also disappeared. At this moment, the sky was already bright. In order to avoid being discovered, Xiao Pingan did not continue to advance towards New River City. Instead, he temporarily settled down in an abandoned motel on the side of the road, preparing to go to the grain depot at night to take a look. The motel was more than 30 kilometers away from the city and was surrounded by a small village. The motel had 3 floors, and there were 2 burnt cars in the courtyard. Xiao Pingan put away his skis, and his figure flashed, arriving at the entrance of the motel. He entered the motel through the unlatched door and went straight to the 3rd floor, where he found a room to settle down. The rooms in the motel were in a mess. No one had cleaned them for a long time, so there was a layer of dust on the table in the room. Xiao Pingan ate something in the room, then found a cushion and sat down with his eyes closed. The day passed quickly, and unknowingly, the sky slowly darkened. Suddenly, Xiao Pingan was awakened by a palpitating feeling. He opened his eyes and felt that everything around the motel had become quiet. He used his long-range vision to look outside and saw that in the wilderness outside the motel, there were many demonic wolves surrounding the motel from all directions. Most of these demonic wolves were demonic wolf warriors. There were no less than 300 of them. Among them, there were 3 demonic wolf magicians. 2 of the magicians had black hair, while one of the magicians had red hair, which was somewhat special. How did these demonic wolves know that he was here? Xiao Pingon suddenly looked at the wolf head mark on the back of his right hand, near the web between his thumb and index finger. Could it be that these demonic wolves and the magician he killed were from the same clan? They had sensed his location. From the direction of the demonic wolves, Xiao Pingon felt that these demonic wolves did not completely lock onto the motel he was in. Instead, they surrounded the entire village and did not completely focus on the motel he was in. There were too many demonic wolves, but their strength was too scattered. He could break out of the encirclement. Just as Xiao Pingon was thinking of breaking out of the encirclement, a fireball suddenly flew out of a small building more than 100 meters away from the motel where Xiao Pingon was. Like lightning, it hit a demonic wolf warrior who had just gotten close to the motel. That demonic wolf warrior was instantly turned into a burning torch. It was unknown if the demon wolf warrior was carrying some flammable or explosive item on his back. After burning for a few seconds, he was still rolling in the snow. Suddenly, with a boom, he completely exploded. He was blasted into a bloody mess. Then, Xiao Pingon saw a familiar figure break through the window of the building and jump out. While in the air, the person held a pistol in his hand and opened fire at the surrounding demonic wolves. After killing 3 demonic wolves in succession, the person was still laughing maniacally. "You beasts have noses sharper than dogs. Didn't I just kill one of your demonic wolf magicians? You actually found me." That guy had a head full of white hair and a voice that was very annoying. If it was not Yin Duo, who else could it be? Yin Duo is actually here? While Yin Duo was teasing the demon wolves with his mouth, his movements were not the least bit careless. With a wave of his hand, he summoned 2 ferocious tigers that flashed with red light. They immediately pounced towards the surrounding demon wolves while he rapidly broke through the gaps in the encirclement of the demon wolves. Looking at his speed, he seemed to have entered the second Yuan realm. With a flash of his body, he was more than 10 meters away. Yin Duo's attack immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding demonic wolves. Those demonic wolves all roared and charged at Yin Duo. Xiao Pingon saw the demonic wolf warriors take off the firearms on their backs and quickly run while firing at Yin Duo. Bang, bang, bang. Amidst the sounds of explosions, the muzzles of the musket-like things on the demon wolf warriors spat out flames, and bullets really shot towards Yin Duo. Damn, the things in the hands of the demonic wolf warriors were actually firearms. The bullets fired from the firearms weren't ordinary bullets, but something similar to runic bullets. A bullet shot out of the muzzle and turned into a ball of flames, a bit like a summoner's fireball spell. For a moment, balls of fire burst out around Yin Duo's body from time to time. They were like fireworks, dazzling in the darkness and illuminating the surrounding snow. If it was an ordinary person, they would have died long ago. However, Yin Duo was too slippery. His figure was also fast. Before those demon wolves could surround him, he forcefully rushed out of the encirclement of those demon wolves. A longsword appeared in Yin Duo's hand at some point. With a flash of his sword, he chopped off the heads of 2 demonic wolf warriors. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.